Chapter 2166, Fatal Blow 3. Good, the end is in sight. Failure will not be tolerated. Yes. Su Luo's already covered with blood. She's completely drenched in blood now. This time, she will definitely die without a doubt. Good. You guys have done well. You all will be greatly rewarded. Leng Xiao laughed wildly. Very quickly, Leng Xiao arrived at the center of the forest, where he saw Su Luo 100 yards ahead of him. At this moment, he was standing at the highest point in the center of the entire blood mist forest, which granted him the best view of his surroundings, allowing him to clearly see everything that was happening ahead. At this time, Leng Xiao saw Su Luo being cornered into the very center of the forest. Wherever she ran, the ground beneath her was covered in blood, the crimson stains flowing onto the earth. The withered old trees present along the path she ran were desperately absorbing blood from the ground. As they continued to suck the blood, their withered trunk and branches appeared to be reviving themselves as they proceeded to twist about slowly. It wouldn't make any difference if there was only one of this tree. However, there were countless of them present. These trees formed a circle as they all closed in on Su Luo. Good. Good. This is great. Leng Xiao's eyes lit up upon seeing it, as his excitement reached a level that could not be described with words. He saw Su Luo resist fiercely, ending in only futility. Those trees were huge, and the revived ones were extremely powerful. Su Luo's small body was as small as a speck of dust compared to them. How could she resist? Leng Xiao saw countless branches weave into a net, wrapping around Su Luo like a silkworm chrysalis. Su Luo swung out her sword, one stroke after another. However, with each chopped branch, 10 more would replace it. The vines were densely packed. They pulled and tightened around Su Luo, landing her in a tragic situation that brought joy to many people. In order to maintain the freshness of the blood, these ancient trees would not strangle Su Luo to death immediately, but they would just hang her like this, draining a bit of blood every day until Su Luo's whole body withered away. Just like that, she would slowly die out. Leng Xiao had seen this before. He had witnessed the trees drain someone to death in front of him before. In that case, it had taken 30 days for that person to die in despair and collapse. This time, it would probably take Su Luo 30 days as well. Ha ha. Leng Xiao was ecstatic, looking up to the sky and laughing wildly. However, his laughter suddenly came to a halt. His face instantly froze. That was because a dagger had pierced Leng Xiao's chest. While Leng Xiao was in a defenseless state, the assailant stabbed straight in and sank the knife all the way into its hilt. Leng Xiao's eyes were wide as he stared at this person less than a foot away from him in disbelief. Su Luo? How could it be her? Leng Xiao felt his brain crash instantly, as if turning blank and shutting off. Was this an illusion appearing before him? This person could be anyone, even one of his subordinates. However, it was absolutely impossible to have been Su Luo. How could it be her? However, the pain from his heart clearly told him that it was real. He was actually stabbed, and he wasn't hallucinating. Why is it you? Leng Xiao rasped with difficulty. He found that he had difficulty saying even a single word now. The blood in his chest was pitch black as the poison began corroding his body. He was very familiar with this kind of poison, as it was the same poison Su Luo had used to force him to surrender when they were in the Tower of Trials. Struggling, Leng Xiao lowered his head, only to discover a yellowish-brown liquid present on the ground his legs were stepping on. What's more, there were only 2 bones supporting his body from his knees down. My legs. Leng Xiao's eyes were drenched with tears. He wanted to roar, to scream, to yell out loud. But he felt entirely helpless, his back was stiff, and his mind was at a loss. He could feel himself dying, really dying, instead of being teleported out of the Tower of Trials to continue living. Su Luo looked at him with a smile, contempt showing all over her face. How is it? This feeling can't really be experienced in the Tower of Trials, right? Why? Leng Xiao wanted to jump up and kill Su Luo, but found that he didn't even have the strength to lift a finger. Why am I here? Su Luo grinned and jumped over to sit on the big oval stone where Leng Xiao had been sitting before, her smile unwavering. Actually, I've been waiting for you here all this time. Su Luo pointed to the ancient tree that was only 10 yards away from the big rock, replying as though she was stating a fact. I was sitting there before. There's no way you couldn't have noticed me, given your prowess. However, it was a pity that when Leng Xiao saw that Su Luo was being mutilated, his whole body had trembled with excitement. People's IQ would drop wildly when they were excited, so Leng Xiao hadn't noticed his surroundings at all. Is that person the stupid big sister Wei? Leng Xiao stared at Su Luo, with a murderous aura in his eyes. If the expression in his eyes could kill, Su Luo would have long taken her last breath. No, no, no. Su Luo shook his index finger and said with a smile, Big Sister Wei is my combat partner. As if I would use my people as sacrificial bait like that. Then who is that? Leng Xiao roared loudly. If it were not for his thirst for knowledge supporting him, he would have already collapsed. That was because he was going crazy after feeling that his body had been corroded to the thighs. Su Luo spread her hands and shrugged. It was the prize you won for me. Don't tell me that you've forgotten about it. Prize? What prize? Leng Zhao's sluggish mind was still able to quickly pull out those memories. He helped Su Luo draw the intelligence skull, and then what had happened after that? Sunny doll. Leng Xiao frowned. What was that? Was it not just a piece of garbage? The name Sunny doll can be really deceiving. In fact, its real name should actually be Mimic doll. Su Luo's smile was as sly as a little fox. She touched her chin and said triumphantly, Mimic doll. As the name suggests, it can be used to mimic a person's appearance, so I let it mimic my appearance to trick you. After Su Luo's explanation, Leng Xiao realized that despite having calculated everything, who would have expected that his plans had been countered by Su Luo's? Mimic doll, mimic doll. Ha ha ha! Leng Xiao looked up to the sky and screamed, laughing until tears were rolling down his face. Those were tears of anguish. This was his last chance, with him having clearly located Su Luo and surrounded her with his men, to end her life right there and nip this problem at its bud. He was certain to get his revenge. He had wanted to make Su Luo feel such incomparable agony to the point of wishing for her own death, so he had used this extreme method. He hadn't expected this. That there would be such a reversal of events. I've lost, ha ha ha, I've lost. Leng Zhao's tears kept flowing unceasingly. His laughing was uglier than crying. Chapter 2167. Fatal Blow 4. The intelligence skull that had caused him to hunt down Su Luo had been personally drawn out by himself. The mimic doll allowed Su Luo to escape catastrophe, and instead put him in this state. Had he been the one who helped Su Luo draw it too? At that moment, Leng Xiao really didn't know what to say. He gazed at Su Luo with perplexed eyes. This person, was she really not the reincarnation of the goddess of luck? Her luck, how could it be this good to the point of defying the heavens? Would all those who opposed her end up as miserably as him? I'm not willing. After raising his head to the sky and yelling this phrase, Leng Zhao's body fell backwards, collapsing onto the ground with a loud bang. Looking at Leng Zhao's corpse, Su Luo sighed slowly. At that moment, Leng Zhao's subordinates all looked at Su Luo with dumb faces. However, they did not get closer. Su Luo swept them an indifferent glance. Leng Xiao is the one who had enmity with me. Now that he is dead, do I want to avenge your former boss? Seeing that no one dared to approach her, Su Luo smiled as lightly as the clouds and the wind. If I can kill your boss, then naturally I can kill all of you too. Those who want to send themselves to death can approach me. They continued staring at Su Luo, not one of them moving forwards. Su Luo's smile remained unbothered. Speaking of this, isn't electing a new boss the most important thing for you to do now? Leaving behind these words, Su Luo turned and left. She didn't walk fast or slow, and her steps weren't too big nor too small, but she still emanated an awe-inspiring aura from behind her. Leng Zhao's subordinates looked at each other. If Leng Xiao hadn't died, perhaps they would have besieged Su Luo. Now that Leng Xiao had died, they each reconsidered their chances, and could only watch as Su Luo walked away. Actually, if they had surrounded her, Su Luo wouldn't have been able to defeat them. But Su Luo had long ago grasped their thinking, so she took advantage of their selfishness to blatantly retreat. Her retreat was clean and classy, confident and assertive. After Su Luo exited the Blood Mist Forest, she quickly ran to rendezvous with Big Sister Wei. Earlier, Big Sister Wei had left with the flying pig, rushing to the exit of the sunset forest. However, after waiting for so long, she was bored, and could only sit on a rock with a blank expression. She waited and waited until she began to feel sleepy. Soon enough, she was snoring like a pig. When Su Luo returned, she smiled with bitterness at Big Sister Wei, who was sleeping soundly on the ground. Big Sister Wei was really easygoing and carefree, never worrying about a thing. In these circumstances, she was still able to sleep even better than a pig. This truly left one speechless. Su Luo patted Big Sister Wei, waking her up. Big Sister Wei rubbed her sleepy eyes, and when she saw Su Luo, her eyebrows rose in surprise, and she pulled Su Luo excitedly. "I was faster than you. I want roasted suckling pig." Okay. Su Luo had been exhausted for so long, and also needed some rest after the danger had passed, so she was in a good mood. She helped Big Sister Wei to roast the suckling pig, then allowed her to store it in the little storage space so that whenever she wanted to eat, she could take some out. Then the two continued on their journey. Su Luo could only smile bitterly, because after passing through the forest and the fight with Leng Xiao, over half of the time limit had already passed. If the golden airship hadn't been broken, they could have still made it. However, with more than half the distance still to cover, going on foot, they would not make it on time. Sure enough, when Su Luo and Big Sister Wei arrived, the assessment had already begun for 2 hours. At that time, they had already stopped letting people in, so Su Luo and Big Sister Wei were blocked outside the entrance. Go back, go back. There is no place for you to stay here." The guard at the gate of the upstream mountain stopped Su Luo and Big Sister Wei outside the entrance. Go back. That wouldn't do. Su Luo had the intelligence skull in her possession. However, Leng Xiao's subordinates had been so stupefied by his death that they had forgotten about this matter. Even if she were to go back to Midstream Mountain with Big Sister Wei, they would not be safe either. The guard was a big, sturdy man in his 30s, with a scar on his face that reached diagonally from the corner of his right eye to his left chin. He looked fierce and vicious, not someone to anger. Furthermore, although he was a gatekeeper, he was not weak at all. He seemed to be at least a 3-star saint rank, and even Big Sister Wei might not be able to defeat him. Seeing that Su Luo and Big Sister Wei remained motionless, the scarred man yelled out, "Don't block the entrance. Hurry and go away." At that very moment, a small group not far off was rushing back. The head of the group was a girl. Seeing this girl, Su Luo felt as if there was a light in front of her. This girl had a very nice appearance and was much more beautiful than Li Yaoyao from back then. She had eyebrows that looked as if they were drawn on, an icy body and bones of jade, and an imposing manner, like a fairy untouchable by dust. Following her were 5 or 6 men, all of whom were good-looking, handsome, or mighty. However, the most notable thing they had in common was that they all circled her, courteous and pleasing, for fear that they would somehow provoke the fairy. They had also just rushed out of the forest, but Su Luo appeared dusty and windblown, whereas this fairy's clothing looked pure and unstained. In contrast, Su Luo looked like a wild girl from the countryside, very ordinary to the eye. Su Luo saw one of the men in the group, then lowered her head slightly and stood in silence beside Big Sister Wei, relying on Big Sister Wei's huge body to block her from the other's line of sight. At that time, the other party's eyes were all focused on the figure of the fairy, so nobody noticed Su Luo's presence. At the same time, Su Luo was able to identify who most likely this fairy was. Because she remembered that Lin Banli was crazy about Fairy Wu Yu, he was only one out of many of Fairy Wu Yu's suitors. Looking at these circumstances, Lin Banli and this group of outstanding men could only be surrounding Fairy Wu Yu. Fairy Wu Yu was the proudest disciple of the third elder. After Su Luo had a confrontation with the third elder, she and Fairy Wu Yu naturally became enemies, with no room for reconciliation. Su Luo hadn't intended to encounter Fairy Wu Yu so soon, so she asked Big Sister Wei to block her figure on purpose. At that time, the group of men was surrounding Fairy Wu Yu, wholeheartedly pampering her as they moved towards the gate. Fairy Wu Yu inevitably noticed Big Sister Wei. She frowned slightly and glanced at the scarred man. What's the matter? When has the upstream mountain become a place that a mere cat or dog can enter? Big Sister Wei looked around with bright eyes. Where is it? Where is it? Where is the dog? The roast suckling pig was too greasy to eat so often, so she had just been thinking about changing up her tastes. Ha 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 ha. The group of men behind Fairy Wuyu laughed out loud when they heard Big Sister Wei's silly remarks, each one of them holding their stomachs as they laughed in an exaggerated manner. Chapter 2168. Fatal Blow 5. Lifting her pretty eyebrows, Fairy Wuyu glanced sideways at the scarred man. In an instant, the arrogant brother Scar instantly turned into an obedient dog. These two people came here for the Midstream Mountain assessment, but they were too late. A person guarding next to Fairy Wuyu sneered. I haven't been here for many years. Has the Midstream Mountain really become worthless to this degree now? Even this kind of fool can place in the top 3? So shameful. In order to please their goddess, the others followed, scolding. How far can the Midstream Mountain be from here? One can get here in half a day. They can actually walk for 2 days and still be late? Are they even capable of participating in the assessment? Hurry up and get lost to your Midstream Mountain. Don't bring embarrassment to yourselves here. Su Luo's fist clenched in a tight ball. She had fantasized several times about how Fairy Wuyu would set herself apart and be the object of everyone's love and support. But if the person in front of her was really Fairy Wuyu, Su Luo could not help but be disappointed. At that moment, someone within the group of people let out a soft "ha." It was Lin Banli. Su Luo sighed helplessly. What was meant to come would eventually come. Sure enough, Lin Banli saw Su Luo and recognized her, so he greeted her in a subtle way. In fact, he was not to blame. It was true that Su Luo's speed through the mountains was too astonishing. Lin Banli had witnessed Su Luo's assessment at the Genius Training Camp only a month ago. And it had only been in the span of a month. Only 1 month. Su Luo had already passed through the distal end mountain, the downstream mountain, and the midstream mountain, and now she had arrived for the assessment at the upper mountain. What kind of speed in advancement was this? Moreover, back then it was only after the assessment that Su Luo broke through to the commander rank, but what about now? She turned out to be a 7-star commander rank. Wasn't Saint rank now just around the corner? Lin Banli was shocked, his eyes widened, and he continued staring at Su Luo. When Fairy Wuyu saw one of her admirers staring at someone else like this, anger began to grow in her heart, and full of anger, she swept her eyes over Su Luo. The instant she saw Su Luo, the Fairy Wuyu, who claimed to be an overwhelming being for all sentient beings, felt as if a thunderbolt had struck the clear sky, making her dumbfounded. What kind of beautiful woman was this? Her eyes were as clear as the autumn waters, bright eyes and white teeth, fairy-like jade bones, and no cosmetics on her face, as cosmetics would only stain her natural beauty. She wore a goose-yellow tunic that had been scraped by branches, the corners of her skirt were stained with mud, and the fabric was empty of embroidered patterns, embellishments, and accessories, with only 2 sashes fluttering in the wind. She stood so quiet that the countless sceneries behind her were like the backdrop embellishing her. At that moment, Fairy Wuyu finally understood what it meant to truly wash away the vulgarities in life. With a slight smile, Su Luo looked towards Fairy Wuyu. At that moment, Fairy Wuyu subconsciously took a step back. With just a glance, the beautiful woman in front of her had managed to put her on edge. Su Luo? Is that really you? Lin Banli at last recovered from his shock and looked at her in surprise. Su Luo rolled her eyes in displeasure. Could he be doing this on purpose? You arrived here from the distal end mountain this quickly, and you seem to be much stronger than last time. What kind of miracle medicine did you take? Lin Banli said happily as he ran toward Su Luo. Before Su Luo could reply, Fairy Wuyu's cold eyes swept towards Lin Banli. You know her? Fairy Wuyu raised her chin and glanced at Su Luo with arrogance. At that moment, she had already recovered her lofty air of a domineering queen, who was above everyone else. Yes, I met her a month ago when she was undergoing the assessment of the Genius Training Camp. Lin Banli said, with a slight change on his face, because he had just recalled that Su Luo and the Third Elder were enemies. A month ago, the Genius Training Camp assessment? This sentence shocked many people, including Fairy Wuyu. It was not terrible to be more beautiful than her, but if she was more talented than her, then this was too much to bear. She would never allow such a woman to continue maturing. Fairy Wuyu glanced at Su Luo with cold eyes and asked Lin Banli with a casual tone. Su Luo? Why does this name sound so familiar? Lin Banli. Lin Banli was embarrassed because he knew that Luo Yichen was protecting Su Luo. Fairy Wuyu hummed with a faint sound, but her manner wasn't angry, making Lin Banli uncertain on how to answer. Seeing that Lin Banli didn't reply, Fairy Wuyu's thin eyebrows lifted a millimeter. Seeing the upset gaze of Fairy Wuyu, the rest of her admirers became unhappy, and one by one began to run towards Lin Banli. Lin Banli, do you still want to hang out with us? Get lost if you don't want to. If you make Fairy Wuyu unhappy for a moment, we will make you unhappy for a lifetime. You have the opportunity to share the worries for Wuyu, and yet you're finding all kinds of excuses? What is wrong with you? Su Luo. Big sister way. Seeing Su Luo's expression of disbelief, Lin Banli's expression twisted, and he walked in silence step by step, back to the side of Fairy Wuyu, and then whispered something into her ear. After he finished saying these words, Fairy Wuyu's indifferent expression turned into a thick layer of frost, and her gaze towards Su Luo became as sharp as the tip of an iceberg, as if she was digging her eyes into her like a dagger. So, the vile wench who opposed my master turns out to be you? The frost on Fairy Wuyu's face faded, replaced by a sneer. Su Luo stood up straight, and she met Fairy Wuyu's gaze with a neither humble nor arrogant expression, just a calm smile at the corner of her mouth. I don't understand what you mean. My master is the third elder of Mingyue Hall. Fairy Wuyu looked at Su Luo with mocking eyes, as if she were looking at a dead person. Indeed, a woman who Fairy Wuyu was unhappy with was the equivalent of a dead person. Everyone knew that in this genius training camp, you could offend anyone but Fairy Wuyu. Otherwise, you would meet a miserable end. Fairy Wuyu decided that she didn't have to wait for Su Luo to comprehend this rule, and that she was already a dead person. Third elder of Mingyue Palace? Yes, I've heard of her. Su Luo said with indifference. That's all. Fairy Wuyu frowned and stared at Su Luo. Su Luo smiled and looked at her. For a while, the two stood face to face, and something seemed to collide and burn with violence between them. Suddenly, Fairy Wuyu laughed out loud. Very well, you dare to fight against my master, now that is really courageous, but this senior sister will tell you. Fairy Wuyu leaned over and whispered in Su Luo's ear. Dare to offend me? Your death is certain. Chapter 2169, Wuyu 1. When she finished speaking, Fairy Wuyu smiled again. However, Su Luo gave her an unexpected reply. Auntie, it is not yet certain who will die. Auntie. In an instant, Fairy Wuyu had a mouthful of blood stuck in her throat, unable to force it out. This vile wench had actually called me auntie. An auntie? You're looking for death. Fairy Wuyu was about to explode with anger. Her admirers protecting her from behind were all dumbfounded. At that moment, they charged forwards one by one, surrounding Su Luo and directing glares at her. You vile wench, hurry up and apologize, or else you wouldn't want to know how this will end. He had dealt Su Luo a light punishment on account of her unparalleled beauty. If it had been switched to an ugly monster, Su Luo would have long ago been kicked away by Fairy Wuyu's group of admirers. With a smile, Su Luo swept her gaze over their faces, touching her jaw in deep thought. In fact, she really couldn't understand. Was Fairy Wuyu really that charming? These men weren't bad-looking, so why were they always around her? For this reason, Su Luo's gaze remained on Fairy Wuyu, pondering for a while. Seeing Su Luo's fearless appearance, Fairy Wuyu was overcome with anger. She waved her hand. Kill her for me. As soon as these words came out, her admirers felt a little uneasy. This girl was truly beautiful and dazzling to the eyes. Wouldn't it be such a pity to just kill her like this? Even if she was a vase, she was also pleasing to the eye. As a result, none of Fairy Wuyu's admirers wanted to act first. Now Fairy Wuyu was choking with so much anger. She had been threatened by Su Luo's beauty from the very beginning. And now, seeing that even the hearts of her own admirers had been shaken, how was this bearable? She definitely couldn't bear this. This vile wench had to be dealt with early on. As a result, Fairy Wuyu raised her eyebrows, and her bewitching eyes swept them a glance as she played with a small strand of her hair. Then she said, "Whoever helps me to kill this vile wench can stay in Wuyo Pavilion tonight." Wow! All her admirers gasped. To them, being allowed to stay in Wuyo Pavilion was far too big of a temptation. This not only meant having a fragrant beauty in their arms, but at the same time, swish! One after another, fierce eyes all focused on Su Luo, and their gazes were like that of a wolf, as if they couldn't wait to tear her apart. A trace of alarm arose in Su Luo's heart. It wasn't suitable to make any moves now. At least, before Luo Yichen arrived, she absolutely couldn't act out, because the strength of her and big sister Wei combined was still not enough to fight against this many. The circle surrounding Su Luo and big sister Wei shrank little by little. Su Luo frowned. She had no choice but to move out her backer. "You can't attack us." "Ha ha ha, vile wench, you're afraid now." Fairy Wuyu, trying to save face, wore a smug and triumphant smile on her face. Su Luo furrowed her brows and glanced at Lin Banli. Among the group of people, he was the only one who kept standing without making a move. Fairy Wuyu had noticed this as well, and her brows made a deep frown. Then with her hands raised she cried out, "Stop for now." After everyone stopped, Fairy Wuyu fixed her icy gaze on Lin Banli. Why didn't you make a move?" Lin Banli moved his lips but remained silent. Fairy Wuyu had no intention to let this indecisive traitor off. She smiled and leaned close to his ear in an ambiguous silence, her white jade fingers stroking Lin Banli's chest, and she said with a soft voice, "Could it be that tonight you don't want to come?" Lin Banli closed his eyes and took a deep breath, because as soon as Fairy Wuyu got close, the familiar fragrance assailing him had filled his mind with inviting lingering pictures. "Right now go and kill her for me, okay?" Wuyo Fairy stroked Lin Banli's handsome face with jade-like fingers, her eyes looking straight at him. Her eyes were as beautiful as silk, causing one's heart to throb. Lin Banli clenched his fists. "Be good, go now, ah?" Fairy Wuyu handed Lin Banli a sharp dagger, then gently patted his shoulder, pushing him in front of Su Luo. Su Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. She shifted her eyes, looking at the envious, jealous, and hateful gazes of Fairy Wuyu's admirers. Then, looking back at Lin Banli's dagger, Su Luo suddenly had a very absurd idea. Did these people really love Fairy Wuyu? She always had a feeling that something was not right, but she couldn't quite seize what it was. "Are your minds all clear?" Su Luo asked Lin Banli. "I have never been confused." Lin Banli's expression was cold and serious, cold as ice to Su Luo, but with fiery passion to Fairy Wuyu, two completely different expressions. "What exactly do you love about her?" Su Luo felt curious. Lin Banli hadn't answered yet, when Fairy Wuyu patted Su Luo on the shoulder, and said to her with a smile, "Junior sister, what's the use of being good-looking? How would you, a green one, be able to understand these things?" How would Su Luo not understand? However, what she didn't understand was, is the inner place really that lacking in women? That you guys are so hungry and blind? Even two are considered an option? Big sister Wei remained silent, her face expressing that she didn't understand a thing. Fairy Wuyu's admirers felt insulted. You. How dare you call Fairy Wuyu a sow? In their hearts, Fairy Wuyu was like the 9 heavens profound 3 descending to the mortal world. With skin of ice and bones of jade as a refined immortal. How could she be a sow? Fairy Wuyu became furious. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her quickly. No, cut her tongue first, then cut her nose, then gouge out her eyes, then cut her limbs, then throw her into a pigsty. Fairy Wuyu yelled, appalled. She had never received such an insult in her life. Her name was Wuyu, not only because of the 3 elders' expectations of her, but also because of her unique qualifications. Beautiful as a flower, talented and intelligent, surrounded by beautiful men. Things that others couldn't even obtain in a lifetime. She could get with a flick of her finger, so her life had always been carefree. However, after encountering Su Luo today, she had suffered countless times. Lin Banli looked at Su Luo in disbelief, the dagger in his hand paused. You can't kill me. Su Luo sneered again. Others don't know, but how could you not know? Brother Luo won't let you off. Luo Yichen? Fairy Wuyu asked sharply. Luo Chen? Did this vile wench have connections with Luo Chen? Yes, Luo Chen. Su Luo glanced at her. As far as she knew, Luo Chen was not close to Fairy Wuyu. Furthermore, he was powerful, and right now only he could solve this game of chess. Who knew that upon hearing Luo Chen's name, Fairy Wuyu's expression would change in an instant, and she would stare at Su Luo fiercely. What is your relationship with Luo Chen? How could he protect you? Chapter 2170. Wuyu 2. Su Luo looked closely at Fairy Wuyu's expression. It seemed like she was jealous. At the thought of this, Su Luo got goosebumps all over her body. There were so many beautiful men surrounding Fairy Wuyu. Did she have thoughts about Brother Luo? Wasn't this goddess' appetite far too large? Tell me, when did you become acquainted with Brother Luo? Fairy Wuyu pushed Lin Banli away and stepped in front of Su Luo. Su Luo gave her a brief glance and remained silent. Would Brother Luo fancy a vase like you vile wench? Impossible. Fairy Wuyu sneered. Brother Luo had always remained indifferent to her. Without giving her a chance, how could he be attracted to this vile wench? Fairy Wuyu didn't believe this, and yet, she couldn't help but doubt in her heart. Su Luo's face was truly troublesome. You may not believe me, but do you not even believe in Lin Banli? You can ask him, he has witnessed it with his own eyes. Su Luo smiled and cast her eyes on Lin Banli. Under the glaring eyes of Fairy Wuyu, Lin Banli gave Su Luo a sideways glance. All Brother Luo did was to watch your assessment. How was that protecting you? There were a lot of people watching your assessment at the time. Myself as well. Could it be said that I was also protecting you? Lin Banli's words were nothing less and nothing more. However, he succeeded in pleasing Fairy Wuyu. Fairy Wuyu's mood improved in an instant, and she casted a wink at Lin Banli, then raised her eyebrows in triumph and scorned Su Luo. What's the matter? Did you put gold on your one? Would Brother Luo look your way? Ha ha, it's as if the sky would rain red rain. Su Luo sneered at Lin Banli. She would remember him. Su Luo had been buying time, but Fairy Wuyu couldn't wait any longer. She coldly told Lin Banli, kill her quickly, and then throw her body into the magical beast zone to feed the dogs. Su Luo frowned, and when she moved her finger, a diamond tablet appeared in her hand. Do you see what this is? Who dares to touch me? This was a diamond tablet given to her by the city lord, the only one of its kind. Seeing a card like this was like seeing the city lord himself. As expected, everyone was stunned. They looked at Su Luo dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. Then all looked at Fairy Wuyu. Fairy Wuyu was shocked for a moment, then began to laugh wildly, until tears nearly streamed out. Ha ha ha, I have long heard that the city lord sent a girl in. But that girl was already sent to the battlefield outside the territory, and isn't inside Purgatory City at all. However, many people with diamond tablets appeared within the city, all of them pretending to be the person sent in by the city lord. Fairy Wuyu's smile ceased abruptly, and she put on a serious expression. So anyone who takes a diamond tablet out as if they're a fake too must be fake. How dare you pretend to be taking orders from the city lord? You deserve to die. Chop her head off and feed it to the dogs. Whoever can kill her can stay in Wuyo Pavilion tonight. Fairy Wuyu again announced the hefty reward. There was a burst of surprise in Su Luo's heart. There had been an appearance of many people with diamond tablets? Or was Fairy Wuyu speaking nonsense? As Fairy Wuyu's voice fell, her minions swooped towards Su Luo, motivated by the reward. We are here to participate in the assessment of the upstream mountain. You kill just because you want to kill? Aren't there any rules? Su Luo was expecting Luo Chen to arrive soon, and was deliberately stalling for time in order to wait for him to come. Rules? I, Fairy Wuyu, am the rules here. What's wrong with killing you? It's an honor for you to die under my hand. Fairy Wuyu triumphed. How can you kill anyone so casually in upstream mountain? Su Luo said in anger. This is outside the entrance of the upstream mountain. It belongs to the magical beast zone, girl. It's not against the rules to kill in the magical beast zone. Fairy Wuyu saw through Su Luo's bluffing, and she rushed forward, the light of her sword directed at Su Luo's face. The sword flashed. By pure instincts, Su Luo tried to avoid it. However, Fairy Wuyu was so much stronger than her, so she couldn't dodge it at all. If this sword stabbed her, Su Luo's flowery jade face would be completely ruined. At that very moment, Big Sister Wei rushed forward and stood in front of Su Luo. Because Big Sister Wei had a big figure, the sword pierced her in the chest fiercely. At the same time, 5 or 6 of Fairy Wuyu's admirers began to attack. Bang bang bang. Fists, palm strikes, weapons. These attacks all greeted the Big Sister Wei. For a moment, Big Sister Wei coughed up blood from being beaten, and her figure shook. They had come from the midstream mountain. These people were all elites from the upstream mountain. Usually, just one of them was already enough for them to deal with, but now they were being besieged. Su Luo's eyes burst into a fierce rage. Fairy Wuyu and all her admirers. I would remember all of you. Big Sister Wei was seriously injured, but the protected Su Luo showed no signs of injury. This made Fairy Wuyu extremely dissatisfied. She tossed Big Sister Wei aside into the air, and the cold sword in her hand abruptly stabbed towards Su Luo's throat. She wanted Su Luo to die. Wuyu Fairy's sword was as fast as a ray of light. Su Luo couldn't dodge it at all. The sword was both ruthless and tricky, and Su Luo's head could be cut off with a single blow. If her body was severed, even for the gods would be difficult to save her. Even Fairy Wuyu's admirers couldn't bear it. The smile on Fairy Wuyu's face was as brilliant as cherry blossoms and shone as bright as the stars. Su Luo could feel the icy coldness of the sword. But, at that instant, Su Luo found that time seemed to stand still. Su Luo looked down. The sword was only an inch away from her throat, but it seemed to have been stopped, unable to stab further by even a small distance. She raised her eyes and looked at Fairy Wuyu. At this time, her triumphant smile was frozen and stiff. Her eyes looked in the direction of the sword in midair, with deep fear and horror. Su Luo followed her gaze. There was a man there. A man who was as elegant as a jade, like a god descending earth. She saw him in midair, wearing a luxurious blue brocade robe swaying in the wind, and his handsome face was lit with a faint brilliance by the afterglow behind him. His appearance was unparalleled, and his eyes were as deep as mist, revealing an unpredictable color. His face was stern, his eyes were as sharp as a sword, and he looked fiercely at Fairy Wuyu. Fairy Wuyu trembled, and her eyes flashed with horror. Then she squeezed out a charming smile. Brother Luo, did you come to see Wuyu? Luo Yichen landed slowly, his beautiful eyes flashing with a dull tone, and his voice was different from his previously clear and gentler voice. You truly have the nerve. Fairy Wuyu felt as if she was falling into an abyss. It was actually true. What that vile wench said was actually true. She really had the protection of Brother Luo. How hateful. Fairy Wuyu smiled reluctantly. Wuyu is unaware of what Brother Luo knows, and I hope Brother Luo would educate me. Luo Yichen never looked at me with a kind expression. How hateful. One day, I would make you kneel before me, kneel and lick my toes. Fairy Wuyu secretly swore this in her heart. Chapter 2171. Wuyu 3? Luo Yichen flicked his finger, and Fairy Wuyu's cold sword instantly split into countless segments, dropping to the ground with a clatter. For a second, an uptight expression passed over Fairy Wuyu's face, but it quickly disappeared. She raised her head again with a seductive smile in her eyes. Brother Luo, this sword was given to me by the third elder herself. Luo Yichen was unmoved. He didn't even bother to give her a glance, completely ignoring her. Fairy Wuyu angrily clenched her fist. Hateful, hateful, hateful. The man she most wanted to seduce from the dragon list actually ignored her. Luo Yichen's actions at first added fuel to Fairy Wuyu's frustration. However, watching him dote on Su Luo threw her in a rage, albeit calm on the outside. At this time, Su Luo had long ago run over to help Big Sister Wei up, feeding her a pill. Although Big Sister Wei's body was practically invincible, she had received very severe attacks and fell unconscious for a while. Provoked by the bright red bloodstains on her body, Su Luo's eyes turned red, and she glared at Fairy Wuyu hatefully. This woman she would remember. Fairy Wuyu gazed at Su Luo contemptuously. If you have the capability to do so, then seek revenge on me. If you don't, then what are you staring at me for? Su Luo clenched her fist. However, she immediately smiled and said, 1 year. After 1 year, I will kill you. Hearing this, it was as if Fairy Wuyu had heard the funniest joke in the world. She sneered coldly. 1 year? You think you will be able to surpass me in 1 year? Ha ha ha. Su Luo put Big Sister Wei down. She stood up slowly, walking step by step up to face Fairy Wuyu with a deadly serious look and said, I am challenging you, do you dare accept? Looking into Su Luo's gaze, which seemed as deep as the oceans, Fairy Wuyu had faltered for a moment. Although the depths of Su Luo's gaze appeared calm on the surface, beyond the calm surface was like a storm of waves thousands of feet high, under the gazes of so many people. How could Fairy Wuyu withdraw? She smiled coldly and raised her chin. Stalling for time. You want this fairy not to hunt you down during this year's time, right? Having this point been seen through by Fairy Wuyu, Su Luo didn't get mad. Instead, the ridicule at the corners of her mouth became increasingly apparent. It's no wonder you dare not accept. I heard you entered the upstream mountain at 25 years old. Haha, I am only a teenager this year. Aren't you just afraid that once I grow up I'll surpass you? This method of provocation was effective, regardless of time and place. Talked down upon by Su Luo, Fairy Wuyu immediately sprung up. You stinky girl. Is being a teenager that amazing? What is there to be proud of? Auntie, I just am this proud of myself, You are flying into a rage again. No matter how advanced your cultivation is, this 30-year-old you can't return to your teens. Su Luo folded her arms, her gaze full of mockery and disdain. In fact, Fairy Wuyu at 30 years old was already considered the youngest in the genius training camp. Because in the genius training camp, if you put some of your spiritual energy into your appearance would hardly change. Therefore, it was difficult to tell one's age in the genius training camp. Some people on the dragon list were over 100 years old. However, because their appearances remained youthful, they all looked to be young people at first glance. Age, originally, was Fairy Wuyu's absolute pride. However, with this evildoer Su Luo, her ego had been spit upon by a girl that was indeed only 18 years old. It was truly absurd to compare individuals with 12 years between them. Entering the upstream mountain at the age of 18. This was record-breaking among upstream mountain candidates, right? However, she had not yet entered. Fairy Wuyu would never let her enter easily. Fairy Wuyu took a deep breath, and then took another. She could barely suppress the anger in her chest. Staring coldly at Su Luo, she said, A year? Letting you live another year. It's not impossible. But Fairy Wuyu's eyes were locked on Luo Yichen with an alluring gaze, like soft waves washing ashore a mountain. If you lose, you must die without question. At the same time, Brother Luo must also drink my lady in one. Lady in pink. What is that? Su Luo frowned. This name wasn't quite reassuring. Fairy Wuyu swept a disdainful glance towards the young green Tu Su Luo. She looked straight at Luo Yichen. Luo Yichen frowned deeply. Su Lu might not have understood what Lady in Pink. However, this did not mean that she didn't know precisely what this matter was. To drink a Lady in Pink, it naturally meant to become one of Fairy Wuyu's people. Seeing that Luo Yichen's expression seemed off, Su Luo guessed that something was not right. Moreover, she didn't want to owe him any big favors, so she waved her hand. You are demanding too much. Change it. Won't change. Fairy Wuyu smiled, directly gazing affectionately at Luo Yichen. That handsome face, cold expression, unsmiling style. She really loved this so much. She really liked him, really liked him. Su Luo. At this moment, Luo Yichen stared at Su. Are you sure you can advance another 5 stars in a year? Su Luo was currently 7-star commander rank. She would be a 3-star saint rank if she advanced another 5 stars. Su Luo, seeing Luo Yichen full of expectation, bit her tongue and nodded in response to Luo Yichen. I can. Even if she couldn't, she had to make it possible. She didn't want Luo Yichen to submit himself to Fairy Wuyu, or to allow her to trample on them in revenge. Luo Yichen rubbed Su Luo's head, and his eyes seemed to flash with doting, and then he nodded to Fairy Wuyu, and lightly said 2 words. I agree. Fairy Wuyu had long ago been stunned from the moment Su Luo nodded, and claimed she could be promoted by 5 stars in a year. 5 stars? It was impossible to achieve for her, Fairy Wuyu, even if she had 5 or 10 years. Yet this stinky girl said she would get 5 stars in a year? What a joke. But the bigger joke was that Luo Yichen actually agreed to this joke. He actually agreed to it. Fairy Wuyu looked at Luo Yichen dumbfoundedly, then clapped. Okay, within a year, I Wuyu will not kill Su Luo. After a year, we will have a battle to the death on stage to decide the winner. And then you will be mine. Fairy Wuyu was afraid that if she was any slower, Luo Yichen would regret and change his mind. So she hurriedly agreed. A corner of Luo Yichen's mouth raised up in disdain. At this time, all of Fairy Wuyu's admirers glared at Luo Yichen with a hostile look, because if she had Luo Yichen, Fairy Wuyu would not want them anymore. At this moment, Luo Yichen glared at Su Luo, then sighed slowly. It really wasn't easy to motivate this girl. Su Luo gave him a big smile. I've really brought trouble to you, brother Luo Yichen. At the thought of Fairy Wuyu forcing brother Luo to bow, Su Luo found this image very amusing. You are not allowed to lose. Luo Yichen poked Su Luo's forehead with his slender finger. Su Luo pouted her lips. She covered her poked forehead. I know. If you poke me again, I'll lose for you. Luo Yichen brought Su Luo and was about to leave, but Fairy Wuyu pulled his sleeve. Wait. She can't go in. Chapter 2172, Wuyu 4. Although there was still a year remaining, Fairy Wuyu had already determined that Luo Yichen was hers. Therefore, at this moment, she was already exercising her sovereignty. However, with a flick of his sleeve, Luo Yichen sent Fairy Wuyu back 3 meters. Fairy Wuyu stomped her feet, but was still able to catch up and stopped in front of Luo Yichen. Pointing at Su Luo, she said with a cold voice. She is not someone from upstream mountain, so she can't enter this door. Although the 2 of them were selected from the midstream mountain, because they were late for the assessment, they can only return this time. Therefore, they must wait to be selected in next month's assessment at midstream mountain. Fairy Wuyu sneered as she glared at Su Luo. She just wouldn't let Su Luo, this vile wench, enter. Su Luo looked up at Luo Yichen. Could Fairy Wuyu be saying the truth? Who would have thought for Luo Yichen's indifferent voice to ring out? The rules are indeed like this. But, Luo Yichen's voice paused. He looked at Fairy Wuyu with indifference. 2 people died on the battlefield, so 2 slots have now been freed up. And these 2 slots would naturally be filled in by people from the midstream mountain. Fairy Wuyu rolled her eyes. How could there be such a coincidence? It just so happened that 2 places had been freed up. Did that mean that Su Luo, this wench, could enter? But there is no place for her to stay. Fairy Wuyu replied with uncertainty. Stay with me. Luo Yichen pulled Su Luo and glanced at Fairy Wuyu with a smile. Do you have any opinions about that? Fairy Wuyu certainly had an opinion. A great deal of opinions. Nevertheless, senior brother Luo completely ignored her, not even shooting a glance at her as he turned around and left. Su Luo proceeded to carry big sister Wei on her back and followed Luo Yichen. Living in the same yard with Luo Yichen, Su Luo thought about what Nangong Luyan had warned her about. Although she had planned on not agreeing, big sister Wei was now seriously injured. Besides, Fairy Wuyu was glaring at her with covetous eyes. This was not the time to be willful. In any case, Luo Yichen was on her side, though she didn't know who his master was. On the way, Su Luo tried to talk to Luo Yichen, trying to figure out who had entrusted him to take care of her. Nonetheless, Luo Yichen was tight-lipped about it. Moreover, he even kept a straight face and seemed to even be angry all along the way. Thinking about what just happened, Su Luo agreed with Luo Yichen. If in 1 year, she lost, then such a handsome person would be sent to the hands of Fairy Wuyu, just like that. While Su Luo was thinking about this, Luo Yichen turned his face and shot her a fierce glare, emphasizing every word. You are not allowed. Lose. Su Luo's lips tightened into a white line and she nodded. Humph. Senior brother Luo, I will definitely win for you. A smile had in fact appeared within Su Luo's heart. She hadn't expected that senior brother Luo had kept a straight face all the way, because he was paying attention to such a matter. So that was why he had been so angry just now. It was really quite cute. Luo Yichen glared at Su Luo and didn't say another word throughout the rest of the journey. Nevertheless, he never stopped caring for her. He took Su Luo to his exclusive Wuchen mountain and left her there before disappearing off to somewhere else. As she looked at this Wuchen mountain, waves of admiration overwhelmed Su Luo's heart. What a world of difference in treatment. Brother Luo lived all by himself in such a big place. It was bigger than Distal End Mountain, where thousands of people lived. The villa on the Distal End Mountain where she stayed was like a beggar's den compared to this place. This was an ancient castle with an incomparably large surrounding garden. It had a low-key profile, yet it was exceedingly luxurious. A whole line of guards stood by the entrance, all of whom possessed extraordinary cultivation. Mountains could be seen far into the distance with vast endless plains of greenery in between. An old man who seemed to be a housekeeper, followed by 2 rows of maids, was standing in wait respectfully for Su Luo's instructions. This was because Luo Yichen had left a message for his housekeeper when he had brought Su Luo back to his residence. I have given her the authority as the second master of this place. The housekeeper naturally had to give Su Luo his highest regard. There was still time to tour this whole manor. However, as Su Luo was still carrying the unconscious big sister Wei on her back, she asked the housekeeper for a room. After entering the room, Su Luo placed big sister Wei on the bed and proceeded to check her body. Su Luo was very lucky this time. It was fortunate that big sister Wei's body was indestructible. If not, she would have lost her life under the repeated attacks from those people. However, due to the seriousness of her injuries, it would be impossible for her to recover completely within 1.5 years if left untreated. Touching her chin, Su Luo started looking for medicine in her space. Aside from the other attacks, there was also the poison on Fairy Wu Yu's cold sword. Su Luo had no suitable detoxification pill to treat this at the moment, so she would have to refine it herself. Su Luo proceeded to look through the medical herbs stored in the space. After sorting through them one by one, she found that she only had 8 of the 9 herbs she needed for the detoxification pill. The missing one was a poisonous serpent scorpion grass. This was Su Luo's first time here, so she was very unfamiliar with Upstream Mountain. She had intended to go ask senior brother Luo, but found that he had closed the door to his cultivation room tightly. Furthermore, there was a group of bodyguards guarding him, making it utterly impossible for her to gain entry. Therefore, Su Luo could only use her brain to solve her problems. After some inquiries, Su Luo found that she could not obtain the poisonous serpent scorpion grass by exchanging points, leaving her with the only choice of collecting it herself. Su Luo went to search again. At last, she found some information that someone from the eastern region of the magical beast zone might have encountered the poisonous serpent scorpion grass. Although it was doubtful, it was also a clue. With big sister Wei lying on the bed in a coma because of her, how could Su Luo do nothing to help her? Even if the odds were slim, she was determined to give it a shot. The housekeeper looked at Su Luo. He tried to say something but hesitated before saying, Miss Su, the inner magical beast zone cannot be compared to the outer magical beast zone. The inner magical beast zone here is very difficult to deal with. Su Luo smiled. I know. The housekeeper evaluated Su Luo's strength before sighing in silence. 7-star commander rank. How did she manage to enter the Upstream Mountain with that level of cultivation? Was there really no tricks involved in that? One should know, those masters on the dragon list were at the very least saint ranks. Nevertheless, the housekeeper also knew that it was out of his scope of duties. Therefore, he didn't say much and just went to see Luo Yichen. When he came out of the cultivation room, the doubt in his eyes was even more apparent. Nonetheless, he still continued to follow his master's instructions. Soon, Su Luo met a group of strangers. There were 5 strangers in this group. All of them were dragons and phoenixes among one, possessing cultivations of saint rank and above. The housekeeper explained to Su Luo. The master said that if Miss Su insists on entering the inner magical beast zone, you must be protected by Xiao Luo's team before you can enter there. Seeing Su Luo's doubts, the housekeeper explained to her with patience in detail. Many people on the dragon list will form teams to enter the inner magical beast zone. Each team will have a captain, and our master is the leader of this team. though he is only the leader in name. Su Luo understood what he was saying. Every team needed a backer, and Luo Yichen was serving as the backer of this team. Chapter 2173. Junior Sister 1. Her gaze swept over the faces of those 4 people. With a single glance, Su Luo could see in their eyes that these people didn't share the same way of thinking. However, even if they had different mindsets, so what? After all, they just needed to work together once. Su Luo let them introduce themselves. Luo Qing, 3-star Saint rank. Male. One of his eyes was bigger than the other. At a glance, there was an interesting look to him. When Luo Yichen wasn't around, he would serve as the deputy leader. In fact, it was already good enough if Luo Yichen showed up once out of 100 times. Tianmeng, 2-star Saint rank. Male. Just like his name, he had a burly and tall physique, was muscular coupled with a reckless personality. Su Yin, 2-star Saint rank. Male. At a glance, he looked normal, with nothing that seemed out of the ordinary in his appearance. However, Su Luo took a little longer look at him than at the others, as she had noticed a hidden breath of darkness coming from him. Therefore, she came to the conclusion that this person was extremely suited to be a spy or an assassin. Li Man, 1-star Saint rank. Female. If she wasn't compared to Fairy Wu Yu or Su Luo, she would be considered to be a real beauty. However, her personality seemed somewhat haughty and arrogant. These 4 people finished their brief self-introductions with calm and indifferent looks in their eyes, especially from the beautiful lady. As arrogant as a peacock, she took advantage of the others' obliviousness to glare at Su Luo fiercely. Su Luo was speechless. It looked like if she wanted to pick some poisonous serpent scorpion grass on her trip to the inner magical beast zone, it would be no laughing matter. At the very least, she wouldn't receive very good treatment. Nevertheless, the only thing Su Luo wanted to do right now was to pick all the poisonous serpent scorpion grass to treat Big Sister Wei. She held no interest towards any other matters right now. Since going on with it was better than falling into conflict, Su Luo decided to start the journey. Luo Yichen's residence wasn't very far from the magical beast zone. In reality, there was a certain way of doing things for those on the dragon list. The higher one's ranking was, the higher one's chance of staying close to the magical beast zone. Not only was it convenient for them, it also served as an intimidation factor towards those magical beasts. Not long after leaving the city, Su Luo had already been on the receiving end of the others' disdain. The girl by the name of Li Man glared at Su Luo with disdain, then hit Su Luo forcefully on purpose with her shoulder when she passed her by. She followed this up by wearing a scowl on her face, as if Su Luo owed her hundreds of thousands of points. Su Luo's eyes flashed in response to the nonsensical provocations Li Man was throwing her way, but she did not follow suit with any reaction of her own. She was no longer the age of a young girl who would bicker with others. However, the expression on Li Man's face became very long when she saw Su Luo ignoring all of her provocations. Stomping back over to Su Luo, she proceeded to give her a fierce glare. Su Luo coldly passed by her shoulder, but she was obstructed by Li Man from moving forward. Left with no other option, Su Luo sighed. "What do you want? Who are you exactly?" Li Man crossed her arms in a haughty manner while asking with a cold snort. "That's none of your concern." Su Luo gave a short and precise answer. "How is it not my concern? You are now living in Senior Brother Luo's home. Senior Brother Luo is now staying so close to you. What if you were to try to assassinate him? Therefore, for his safety, we need to know who you are." Li Man choked on her words for an instant before managing to come up with a reason. Luo Qing, Tianmeng, and Su Yin all looked to the sky. Assassinating Senior Brother Luo. What a nonsensical reason this was. Su Luo smiled lightly. "You're stepping out of your bounds. Senior Brother Luo ordered you all to accompany me into the magical beast zone. Not for you all to interrogate me." Li Man grew so mad as she stomped her feet. "Honestly, even if you don't tell me, I already know who you are. You are just a person from Midstream Mountain who is here to take the assessment. You are even worse than the worst person in the upstream mountain. What is there to be proud of? If not for that face of yours, why would Senior Brother Luo treat you this well?" Staring at Su Luo's incomparably beautiful face, Li Man seemed so consumed with jealousy that it seemed her entire body was in flames. That face truly made her feel so self-conscious that she felt like committing suicide. Su Luo tilted her head and after some thought, she said without any hesitation or embarrassment, "Yes, I have this face, while you don't have any face at all. No wonder why senior brother Luo doesn't even recognize you." Li Man was practically hopping with rage. You need to be clear here. Right now we are the ones helping you. And yet this is the attitude you show while asking for help. Shrugging her shoulders, Su Luo spread her arms and replied in a sly tone. Senior brother Luo was the one who asked you guys to help me. Therefore, in accordance with this, I'm the one who owes him a favor. If you want me to treat you with a good attitude, you should go ask for senior brother Luo for it. You are just relying on senior brother Luo's preferential treatment to you. Li Man yelled back in anger. That's right, senior brother Luo treats me really well. Su Luo replied as though she was agreeing to a fact. Li Man was so angry that she couldn't breathe. Being the deputy leader of the team, Luo Qing stepped forward and began to mediate the conflict when he saw the two girls starting to fight. Hey, everyone here's on the same side. We are going to stay together no matter what, so why are you guys fighting for? Stop fighting, alright, stop fighting. Li Man looked at her team deputy leader with tear-stricken eyes. Senior brother Luo Qing. She bullied me. Luo Qing felt his head start to ache. You claim to be bullied after losing to Su Luo in a verbal argument? If that were the case, many people would be bullying you. However, with her normally playing the role of the special junior sister within the group, her senior brothers would always pamper and indulge her. Therefore, Luo Qing rubbed her head. Alright, you are older than Miss Su, so what's wrong with taking on more responsibility? In truth, she was more than twice Su Luo's age, but senior brother Luo Qing would definitely not say such a cruel thing out loud. But when he reminded her of her age, Li Man had already exploded. Not only had senior brother Luo been taken away from her, her title of being the youngest and most pampered, this position had also been taken away by Su Luo. Seething with fury, she gave Luo Qing a vicious shove. All of you men are the same. As soon as you see her beauty, all of you just want to protect her as if she were some kind of treasure, while treating me like some grass by the roadside. Su Luo. Exactly who had raised such a silly and naive girl up? Those people should really stand up and take responsibility for her. Su Luo stared at senior brother Luo Qing. Speechless, Luo Qing continued to pat his junior sister's shoulder. She is under the care of senior brother Luo. These words immediately brought about another conflict. That's because senior brother Luo's eyes have been blinded. He will soon see clearly who is the one that is truly good to him. Li Man was so mad that her face turned crimson red as she clenched tight her fists. After ridiculing senior brother Luo, she turned and started to ridicule Su Luo yet again. Look at her. She is only a 7-star commander rank. And all of you are helping her to get into the deepest parts of the magical beast zone? Isn't she just sending herself to death by going there? If we go in there, isn't it us who will have to protect her? She is such a big trouble and she will only get in our way. And all she knows is how to annoy others. How annoying. Luo Qing looked at Su Luo apologetically, then again tried to convince his junior sister with a warm voice. She is still young. Having all these achievements as only a teenager, she definitely has a lot of potential. After a while, she will be stronger than us. Your expectations are just too high right now. Li Man had insulted Su Luo in order to establish a sense of superiority, but after Luo Qing explained, not only she didn't get a sense of superiority, she felt inferior to Su Luo. Couldn't accept this. Chapter 2174, Junior Sister 2. Li Man was dissatisfied. She glanced sideways at Su Luo, arrogantly jabbing her fingers. So what about geniuses? How many geniuses have lost on their way forward? Just look at her current strength. Senior brother Luo Qing, you say, if we bring her to the inner magical beast zone like this, would she not become a burden and drag us down? Tell me. Luo Qing was helpless, glancing apologetically towards Su Luo. Su Luo's cold eyes sank slightly, and she glanced sideways at Li Man Man, but she did not make an effort to defend herself. Although she was only a 7-star commander rank on the surface, adding on her trump cards, even Big Sister Wei might not be a worthy opponent, let alone these few people here. Nonetheless, Su Luo abstained from arguing because it was only her word. Anyway, she was already entering the magical beast zone. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future for her to show her strength. There was no rush to prove herself right now. Su Luo was no longer at the age where she would be provoked by a single word from someone. She had already learned what it meant to be calm and steady. Seeing Su Luo ignoring her, Li Man Man snorted and pointed at Tian Meng, saying, "Senior brother Tian, don't you think she is reckless? She even has a bet with senior sister Wu Yu. She even wanted to bet on a life or death battle against senior sister Wu Yu. You see, she actually wants to defeat senior sister Wu Yu." Tian Meng also frowned and glanced at Su Luo, giving his judgment in 4 words. "Overestimating your own strength." Li Man Man immediately lit up and continued chattering on. "That's right. It doesn't matter if she dies by herself, but the most loathsome thing is that she actually used senior brother Luo as her wager. Her life has no value whether she is dead or alive, but senior brother Luo would have to defer to senior sister Wu Yu." There were reasons upon reasons, but this was actually what Li Man Man was most angry about. She had always been in love with senior brother Luo, admiring and worshipping him as her male idol. However, at the thought that senior brother Luo would be forced to become one of Fairy Wu Yu's people, Li Man Man wanted nothing more than to get up and punch Su Luo fiercely. Since this matter had been mentioned, Su Luo, at the very least, had to say, "I won't lose." "You won't lose?" Li Man Man pointed at Su Luo, sneered twice. "Ha, ha. You won't lose, but could Fairy Wu Yu lose? Look at yourself, you're only a 7-star commander rank." Su Luo carelessly swept a glance across the infuriated Li Man Man's companions, and slowly clenched her hand into a fist. "Even if I am a 7-star commander rank, you are still not a worthy opponent of this 7-star commander rank." "Ahaha." Li Man Man laughed long and hard. She felt like she had encountered a madman. Then she glared at Su Luo. "You idiotic lunatic. If you really condemn senior brother Luo to lose, I will definitely come after your life." Su Lu shrugged her shoulders and opened her arms. She was able to be promoted from 1-star commander rank to 7-star commander rank within a month, so why couldn't she promote another 5 stars again within a year? Nonetheless, this kind of matter was hard to clarify, so she couldn't be bothered to argue. It was just pointless to explain. Senior brother Luo Qing came out again to smooth things over. Okay, stop arguing. Just ahead of us is the magical beast zone. All of you, save your breath and make preparations to battle." Senior brother Luo Qing now felt extremely conflicted on how to deal with Su Luo. This 7-star commander rank was also the person whom senior brother Luo had handed to them and entrusted them to protect. It was absolutely unrealistic for her to go and fight. The magical beasts here could blow her away with just their farts. Therefore, senior brother Luo Qing decided that accommodating Su Wan, protecting her, and having her watch from the side was good enough. Along the way, Luo Qing the situation of the magical beast zone to Su Luo while he walked. The magical beast zone is very vast, accounting for half of the entire continent. It can be described as endless. Only the top 100 names on our dragon list have the right to enter. The people at the top of the dragon list can go deeper in. However, because we are not as strong and are lower on the list, we can only go to the outer circle. Fortunately, the poisonous serpent scorpion grass is located in the eastern outskirts, so we don't need to go too deep. But even in the outskirts, the presence of these magical beasts would still be terrifying for you. So stay close to us and don't get lost. Su Luo nodded indifferently. Tian Meng patted Su Luo on the shoulder. "Don't be afraid. Since senior brother Luo has entrusted us with protecting you, even if we aren't willing to, we won't abandon you alone." Su Luo. Li Man Man sneered several times. "What's the point of protecting her? It's better to leave her to be eaten by magical beasts. Just seeing her is annoying." Su Luo. Senior brother Luo Qing glared helplessly at Li Man Man. "How can you speak like this? If she is gone, who will compete with Fairy Wu Yu in a year's time? Let's not mention that a year later, even right after we go back, within minutes, senior brother Luo would have to pack his bags and go to Fairy Wu Yu's pavilion. Li Manman's face was stunned in panic. She turned her head and glared at Su Luo, pointing towards her with trembling fingers. Her body trembled in rage as she struggled to find the right words. You. Li Manman took a deep breath, and then another deep breath, to restrain herself from charging up and smashing Su Luo's head. It took her a long time to calm down. She gave Su Luo a vicious look, but she still had no choice but to walk behind Su Luo. When she passed by her shoulder, she angrily spat out a sentence. Don't you dare to die! Her senior brother Luo's purity was currently in the hands of this vile girl. It was really upsetting to think about. Li Manman couldn't cry even if she wanted to. For a while, everyone looked at Su Luo with very odd gazes. This kind of look, Su Luo was very familiar with. Wasn't this the exact same facial expression as people looking at rare pandas? Moreover, these 4 people surrounded her completely from the front, back, left and right, for fear that with a single misstep, she would be carried away and eaten away by the magical beasts. They protected her with great caution. The veins in Su Luo's forehead twitched. All of her words and emotions in the end turned into a long sigh. They would soon reach the magical beast zone. Just as the deputy team leader Luo Qing had said, the area here was vast and endless as far as the eye could see. The ancient woods were huge and tall. The grass was lush green, filled with very vibrant life. This was the paradise of magical beasts, the place where humans stopped. Luo Qing instructed in a low voice. We will mainly look for herbs this time, and hunt magical beasts on the side. Luo Qing glanced at Su Luo and said with a sigh in his voice, try your best not to alarm the magical beasts. If we encountered danger, it wouldn't be too big of a problem. It's just that, Su Luo. So if you don't need to make a move, then do your best to refrain from making any. Li Manman could no longer be bothered to talk to Su Luo, because she had already been angered to the point of feeling numb, and said faintly, I know. Such a burden. Otherwise, we would even be able to earn a great deal of points. Su Luo spread her hands. If you want to fight the magical beasts, then fight the magical beasts, don't mind me. Currently, she was in a state of poverty and would love to be able to get more points by way of hunting. Li Manman sneered. Haha, a tiny 7-star commander rank still wants to kill magical beasts? In this place, even a little magical rabbit beast could crush you to death. She wore a mocking expression on her face, clearly treating Su Luo's words as nothing. Chapter 2175, Junior Sister 3. Look! Foaming Wolf. Tian Meng yelled out. The Foaming Wolf was great at speed with considerable strength as well. However, for Su Luo, it was a small piece of cake, and so Su Luo intended to go forwards. However, before she could move, they shouted. Stop right there. Don't move. The other 4 people stopped in unison. Su Luo stopped at once, gazing in silence at her 4 companions who acted more like her enemies. Li Manman rebuked. Hey, you're such a burden. Could you stir up less trouble? What do you want to do by going forwards? You still want us to waste more time and energy saving you? As she said this, Li Manman shot Su Luo a sharp look, then, bumping into her shoulder as she passed by, brandished her icy sword and flew towards the foaming wolf to slay it. Su Luo, being very tolerant, gently touched her nose. Senior brother Luo Qing was afraid that Su Luo would have grievances in her heart, and so he patted her shoulder. Man has a very straightforward temperament, and she speaks without thinking, but there is no malice in her heart, so please do not hold it against her. Su Luo smiled. This was just a one-time mission anyways. Everyone would return to being strangers when they went back, so what was there to hold against them? Tian Meng also added. In fact, what Junior Sister said makes sense. Last time you stirred up trouble, so it's better for you to just stay still. Deputy Leader, you can be responsible for her. You better watch her closely. With that said, Tian Meng flew to Li Manman's side to help fight the foaming wolf. Senior brother Luo Qing and Su Yin remained behind. One stood to the left and the other to the right, with Su Luo in the middle. Su touched her nose and smiled in bitterness as she shook her head. With the help of Tian Mang, the foaming wolf was soon overwhelmed, and it didn't last long before Li Man Man stabbed its neck with her sword. Then it fell to the ground. Li Man Man looked back, giving Su Luo a triumphant look, and raising her chin in pride. Su Luo smiled bitterly. The strength of a 1-star saint rank against the foaming wolf. Even a single person could have ended the battle faster. But this girl was lacking in sword accuracy and footstep maneuverability, causing the fight to be dragged out for this long. However, seeing Li Man Man as proud as a peacock showing off its tail feathers, Su Luo didn't break her delusions of triumph. At this time, Li Man Man ran over to senior brother Luo Qing, pulling on his sleeve and said with arrogance, "Senior brother Luo Qing, quickly take out your tablet. The foaming wolf's worth is equal to 1,000 points. Silver tablet?" Su Luo swept a glance towards Li Man Man. Li Man Man touched her chin with an arrogant gesture. "What's wrong with the silver tablet? For all of the candidates, the names ranked 50 and below all have silver tablets. And don't look down on silver tablets, these collect double the points." "Oh." Su Luo nodded. It appeared that, setting aside the lowest category of bronze tablets, the silver tablet's use was very common, as all the people below the top 50 names on the dragon list were using it. That was true. If the gold tablet was so easy to get, then wouldn't they all double their points extremely quickly? And wouldn't that cause inflation? Su Luo's thoughts were like this. However, when she saw Li Man Man preparing to take the silver tablet to collect points, an idea suddenly flashed through her thoughts. After buying food for her spirit pets, she was left in extreme poverty. The point value of the magical beasts here was not small, so perhaps she could work something out. And so Su Luo called out to Li Man Man. "Wait. What is it?" Li Man Man impatiently glared at Su Luo. "The silver tablet in your hand can only double the points." Su Luo went straight to the point. "But I have a diamond tablet that can multiply them by 5. Upon hearing Su Luo's words, Li Man Man was at first stupefied, but then clutched her sides and bent over laughing until tears rolled out. Not only Li Man Man, but even senior brother Luo Qing, Tian Mang, and the one with the least sense of presence, Su Yin, had the corners of their mouth curled up into a scoff, as if this was the most funny joke. Su Luo frowned. "What are you all laughing at? What I'm saying is true. It is more real than authentic gold, okay?" "Ha ha." Li Man Man laughed and cried out, "Diamond tablet? Diamond tablet? Do you know how difficult it is to obtain a diamond tablet? Even the top 10 elders only use jade tablets, and you actually have a diamond tablet?" Su Luo took out the diamond tablet and waved it in front of Li Man Man. Li Man Man sneered with no ceremony. "Don't wave it around, fake is fake, yet you still want to trick us? Some time ago there were many fake diamond tablets on the market, and the third elder already made an appearance to clear it all up. All of the diamond tablets are fake, they do not exist." It was the third elder again. She was essentially dismissing Su Luo's special identity. However, at this time Su Luo still remained calm. She was not angry or upset at all, instead smiling faintly. "This foaming wolf is worth 1,000 points, and with the silver tablet it is 2,000? "Of course." Li Man Man interjected. Su Luo smirked, and crouched in front of the body of the foaming wolf, flashing the diamond tablet above its head as if scanning a barcode. Ding! With a soft sound, the points had already been added into Su Luo's diamond tablet. "Hey, what do you think you are doing? I killed the foaming wolf. Those points are for the whole team. And you actually dare to steal them in such a blatant way?" Li Man Man was so angry that she almost jumped on her feet. Senior brother Luo Qing also glared at Su Luo in disdain. Seeing this, Su Luo's smile remained unwavered, and she walked up to the senior brother Luo Qing and swept towards his silver tablet, transferring 2,000 points over. Su Luo curled her lips. "Check and see if there are any points missing." Li Man Man rushed to grab the silver tablet. Sure enough, 2,000 points had been added. Senior brother Luo Qing's silver tablet was the entire team's account. In order to be fair when completing missions in the magical beast zone, points were collected into this silver tablet and distributed upon returning back to their residences. Li Man stared suspiciously at Su Luo's diamond tablet, frowning. Exactly what are you playing at? I told you all that this is a diamond tablet, which multiplies the points by 5 times. I'll give you all 2,000 points, and I can still profit 3,000. Su Luo waved the diamond tablet, then put it back into her sleeve. Her other companions looked at each other. Could this be real? Fake. It must be fake. Li Man was the first to contradict, and soon found a point to support her argument. I heard that some of those fake diamond tablets were altered from bronze tablets, and some were altered from actual silver tablets. As for the gold tablets, those only belong to the top 50 on the dragon list, and since ordinary people could not reach this level, so there was nobody who would use them as fakes. But then, what does she hope to achieve? Tianmeng couldn't understand this. If it were a bronze tablet, isn't that just slapping her own face swollen? If so, that's just elevating oneself up at one's own cost. If it were a silver tablet, she would be making things complicated for no reason. Why go through all that trouble? The 4 people huddled into a small circle, muttering and discussing amongst themselves, but no conclusion seemed to be achieved. Chapter 2176, Junior Sister 4. However, the points had indeed been returned to the silver tablet, so under the suggestion of senior brother Luoqing, they all decided to let Su Luo off this time. When Su Luo heard the result of the discussion, she immediately became happy. This was like a gift of charcoal in the cold one. She was extremely poor, very far from being able to buy food or clothing, and looking at the shiny diamond tablet, she had only gained 3,000 points from just now. However, this was very good. After some time she could earn many points. Su Luo's poor companions didn't even know that most of the rewards from the magical beasts they had so diligently fought had all been taken by her. And the best thing about what Su Luo was doing here was that she reaped the benefits without hurting anyone. Although they didn't believe it, it was better this way, because then Su Luo wouldn't have any further pressure when she collected points. Su Luo simply went with this small team that distributed points amongst themselves, and she was very comfortable with it. Of course, she blocked out Li Man's ramblings and chatterings, so they didn't affect her at all. As time passed by and they traveled deeper into the magical beast zone, the magical beasts that appeared were no longer small like the foaming wolf. At that moment, senior brother Luoqing stopped in his tracks. His face froze, and he said in a low voice, "Stay alert." This was to indicate there was danger approaching, and so the entire team, including Su Luo, followed close and stayed on guard. Li Man shot a glance at Su Luo, complaining in her heart. Su Luo had the same alertness as the dead. All along the way, she had been the most idle. Just then, 5 ghost-faced demonic leopards appeared right in front of them. Ugh. They're actually ghost-faced demonic leopards. They're extremely difficult to kill, most of all the leader. This means senior brother Luoqing will have to fight. Tianmeng struck the ground. Before, 2 people were tasked to go and fight, while the other 2 stayed behind to guard Su Luo. Now with 5 ghost-faced demonic leopards, they all had to fight. And since there were only 4 people, there would be 1 extra leopard with no one to deal with it. Su Luo stared at the ghost-faced demonic leopards ahead, and said with eagerness, "You can hand one to me." For a moment, all of their gazes were on Su Luo. Li Man sneered, Tianmeng shook his head, Suyin frowned, and the senior brother Luoqing simply waved. "No, you can't go fight." "Why?" Su Luo wanted to take this opportunity to erase her reputation of being an invalid waste. "Because you're only a tiny 7-star commander rank, and you're overestimating yourself." Li Man snorted at Su Luo. Su Luo knew how to deal with Li Man, so she smirked. "Then, do you want me to go fight the ghost-faced demonic leopard right now?" Li Man clenched her fists, her face fierce. "If you're going to die, don't drag senior brother Luo down with you." Before she even finished her sentence, Li Man had already lifted Su Luo and stuffed her into a nearby green and leafy 1,000-year-old tree. Upon throwing Su Luo there as if she were a burden, Li Man warned her with a cold voice. "Remember, just stay here for me. Don't even stick your head out." Facing Su Luo's big, clear eyes, Li Man's anger carried a trace of helplessness. She took out a handful of fragrant pine nuts and stuffed them all into Su Luo's hands, warned her in anger. "Eat those for me. Don't make a single sound." Then, Li Man turned around and flew towards the ghost-faced demonic leopards. Su Luo looked at the pile of pitch-black pine nuts in her hand, and she felt touched at that moment. Who knew that this Li Man wasn't such a bad person after all? Su Luo slowly and leisurely ate the pine nuts, swaying her legs as she watched the battle below. She didn't understand why senior brother Luo had bothered to be the sponsor of such a small team. It was clear that their strength was far below his. As Su Luo ate, she began thinking, although she was only a 7-star commander rank, but if she used her diamond tablet, she could outrank an entire team by herself. Senior brother Luo Qing's movements were steady and stable, however, he was lacking in agility and flexibility. If he could make more unpredictable attacks, the ghost-faced demonic leopard's leader would have been cut down by his blade already. Tianmeng, alas, he truly lived up to his name as a simple-minded person who relied on brute force. He, similarly to Big Sister Wei, charged forwards to fight in a rush, but wasn't coordinated. Could the thickness of the ghost-faced demonic leopard's skin be compared to a human's? He even charged at it head-on. Sigh. Su Luo turned her head and looked away. If one had to name one skillful person in this battle, then it would be the one without any sense of presence, appearing as frail as a breeze, Su Yin. Su Yin was not to be looked down on. Even though his build was only average, and he didn't talk much. When it was needed most, he could be flexible and agile, jumping up and down and dodging left to right. The ghost-faced demonic leopard was soon worn out by his movements. As for Li Man, this girl. Alas! Su Luo really wanted to throw aside the pine nuts in her hand to help her fight the ghost-faced demonic leopard. Had she not realized this was a battle of life and death, why was she using such flowery skills? Could this lady use some proper strength for once? At this point, Li Man had already put away her sword, and began to call upon her skill. Her skill was cherry blossoms. A light orb condensed in front of her chest, and she released it in the direction of the ghost-faced demonic leopard. The orb burst open upon contact, and cherry blossoms sprinkled all over the leopard. The cherry blossoms looked like snowflakes scattering about, colorful, dreamy and beautiful, a wonderful sight to behold. But where was any of its lethality? It had taken so much spiritual strength to summon so many cherry blossom petals, but with a mere turn of its body, the ghost-faced demonic leopard had ripped them all to shreds. The only thing damaged was the leopard's pride. In Su Luo's opinion, the wound was even smaller than a needle prick. Su Luo almost spat out blood. Exactly where had senior brother Luo found this team? Could this group really protect her all the way to the poisonous scorpion grass? The more Su Luo watched, the more hurt she felt. And so she couldn't hold it in and pointed out to Li Man. "Hey, can't you just coalesce the cherry blossom petals into a blade? Then you would actually be able to do some damage, okay?" However, Su Luo's kind intentions weren't received well. "That many pine nuts can't stuff your mouth. Shut up." Li Man shouted at Su Luo. She already had her hands full fighting to the death, and now that abominable little commander rank was bothering her even more. And so, the Li Man who rejected Su Luo's advice, was soon being chased down by the ghost-faced demonic leopard, and she ran and stumbled for her life, full of embarrassment. Su Luo continued to leisurely munch on the pine nuts as she watched the battle with a smug face. Of the four, Li Man was the only one struggling. If she had fought them by herself, she would have already lost. Su Luo watched Li Man being chased down the mountainside with the ghost-faced demonic leopard close behind her, and she couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 2177, Junior Sister, 5, Yes Smashing. As in the smashing done with a club. You have to cut, not smash it, girl. Su Luo covered her face. Who knew if it was because of the ghost-faced demonic leopard's bad luck? But as the blade spun, it actually stabbed straight into the leopard's nose, spraying blood everywhere. Li Man was ecstatic in her heart, but she still turned to shout at Su Luo. "I know how to cut. Stop meddling in other people's business." Su Luo interjected noisily again. "Its weak point is in its jaw. The skin elsewhere is thicker and is difficult to pierce through." Li Man Man was tempted to say back to her, "I am not going to stab its jaw." But the angry ghost-faced demonic leopard suddenly leaped from its 4 legs, suddenly pouncing fiercely towards Li Man Man. Its giant paws were powerful. If the paws landed on her, Li Man Man would quickly turn into a pile of mush. In a desperate situation, Li Man Man gathered the cherry blossom petals into a 3-meter-long spear and stabbed it straight towards the ghost-faced demonic leopard's jaw. Poochie! With a light sound, the ghost-faced demonic leopard's jaw was viciously pierced by the spear, lifting its entire jaw along with its body up high as if supported by a lever. Clap clap clap, Su Luo was applauding. Li Man Man hummed lightly and let go, and the ghost-faced demonic leopard fell to the ground with a bang, leaving a large crater. "I suppose you had a lucky guess." Li Man Man still gave Su Luo an attitude, but it was much better than before when she had been jumping around like a thunderstorm. "It was not a lucky guess, I could see it," Su Luo said with a smile. "Who would believe that?" Li Man Man glared at Su Luo. Su Luo shrugged helplessly, then slid to the ground. First, she took the points from the ghost-faced demonic leopards, a good 10,000 in total. In other words, each leopard was originally worth 2,000 points. With a total of 5 ghost-faced demonic leopards, Su Luo instantly accumulated 50,000 points with her diamond tablet. With a smile in her eyes, she was extremely pleased. She still had to transfer 20,000 points to senior brother Luo Qing's account. She had eaten a nice meal of roasted pine nuts while leisurely watching a fun show. And just like this, 30,000 points were automatically sent to her account. What would be better than that? Su Luo thought with joy. Li Man Man, suspicious, quickly walked over and pulled Tian Meng to one side. "Look how happy she is. Does she really have a diamond tablet?" Tian Meng scratched at his hair and frowned. Li Man Man again said in denial, "Impossible. She's just a 7-star commander rank. Is the city lord blind? Why would he treat her so differently?" The honest Tian Meng said bluntly, "Doesn't brother Luo also treat her differently? Is brother Luo blind as well?" Li Man Man was so angry that she slapped Tian Meng on the head. Did he really have to mention this as well? Tian Meng unhappily rubbed the back of his head and grimaced. "I see you are the one who is blind. Su Luo obviously has a very good appearance, very good looking. With this trait, why can't she win the favor of even the city lord?" Although Li Man Man's face was still angry, in her heart, she was starting to believe it bit by bit. As a result, the gaze with which she looked at Su Luo became more and more puzzled and confused. "Hey." Li Man Man walked up to Su Luo. Su Luo smiled faintly. "Do you really have a diamond tablet?" Li Man Man demanded in a condescending manner. Although she tried to put on a high and mighty expression, the curiosity in her eyes gave away her eagerness. Chapter 2178, Triumphant 1. Take it out, so I can take a look. Li Man Man had one hand on her waist, the other stretched out to Su Luo demandingly. Su Luo glanced at Li Man Man, then turned and walked away. "Hey, you stop right there," Li Man Man exclaimed. She said to Su Luo, "What is this attitude? I'm just asking you to take out the diamond tablet to see. What's the big deal about it?" "The city lord's diamond tablet. If this isn't that big of a deal, then what is a big deal?" Su Luo played with the diamond tablet, her eyes half squinted cunningly, like a fox, saying, "Such a precious treasure, not asking you to kneel down to receive it is already letting you off lightly." "You." Li Man Man huffed and glared at Su Luo, and then she turned to leave. She couldn't even take a look at it. Anyways, it didn't matter because it was all fake. Fake. Ignoring Li Man Man, Su Luo was just as unbothered as before. This detachment earned her countless thumbs-ups from senior brother Luo Qing. And so they kept traveling for the next 3 days. Senior brother Luo Qing was squinting at the map and frowning. 5 kilometers ahead, we will enter the Netherworld White Tiger's territory. Not only is the Netherworld White Tiger King's strength formidable, they are also numerous. We only have 5 for people, so they will be quite difficult to deal with. The deputy leader's eyes flashed with worry. But this is the only way to pass through this area by the cliffs of the eastern region, so we cannot go around it. Everyone should tread as lightly as possible. We must absolutely not disturb them so that they won't bother us. Li Man glared at Su Luo and declared, "The rest of us will be okay. She is the only one who is weak and slow, so there's a good chance she'll get caught by the Netherworld white tigers. She might even bring harm to the rest of the group. If we had known this earlier, we should have just left her back inside the city." And so, after discussing amongst themselves, Tianmeng was assigned to protect Su Luo while the other three were left to fend for themselves. The mountains were dark. Into the darkness they went. The next 100 miles all belonged to the Netherworld white tigers. Roar! An earth-shattering roar echoed from the forest, scattering all the birds and making the wild animals scurry away. Senior brother Luo Qing became pale, and his expression soured. "This isn't good. We're about to run into a group of Netherworld white tigers." Usually most Netherworld white tigers hunted alone, and it was very rare that they would gather in a group like today. It was just their poor luck. "Run quickly. Run, run, run." Senior brother Luo Qing cried out, motioning for the team to flee. Upon facing such a large foe, the entire group became extremely tense. As everyone went on ahead, Su Luo smirked and headed instead towards the group of Netherworld white tigers. There were 7 Netherworld white tigers. Senior brother Luo Qing sprinted along, and had covered 5-1 in no time, but Li Man suddenly yelled, "This is bad. We lost that stupid girl." Li Man looked left and right but couldn't find Su Luo, so she became very anxious. Senior brother Luo Qing also looked around, and indeed she was gone. All 3 of them turned their attention to Tianmeng, who uncomfortable fidgeted. "I remember clearly taking her." Everyone looked at Tianmeng's right hand. At that moment he really did have Su Luo on his back. "You!" Li Man exclaimed. She angrily pointed at Tianmeng, but no words came out. Then she turned and kept on running. Su Luo's death would not be a pity, but if she died, brother Luo would submit to Fairy Wuyu. This could absolutely not happen. Li Man ran fast. Faster than when the Netherworld white tigers chased her. Senior brother Luo Qing caught up with Li Man in the blink of an eye, and remembering what senior brother Luo had cautioned him about, only said, "I'm also leaving, you all are on your own." Then he flew away in pursuit. Returning would most likely mean a death sentence. He couldn't force his brothers and sisters to make this decision, so he could only choose for himself. Su Yin quietly followed senior brother Luo Qing. Tianmeng angrily stared at the burden on his back. It would be really troublesome to run quickly with this. But when he caught up, he saw all the others standing stupefied. Scratching his head, Tianmeng asked, "What's with you all? Were you struck by lightning? Why are you all standing here like a bunch of logs? Why don't you go up and fight?" Li Man turned to look at Tianmeng, her eyes still consumed with disbelief, and then she quietly turned back to stare at Su Luo. She pointed a finger towards Su Luo, and said nothing more. Su Luo was running a one-man show. Light as the wind, she flew like a butterfly amongst the Netherworld white tigers, her gleaming afterimage trailing behind her. She was so fast that she could not be seen by the naked eye. The Chungying sword in hand, she swung in a wide arc at the Netherworld white tigers. They seemed to be standing there waiting to be slaughtered, and their bodies soon erupted with blood everywhere. Su Luo saw the blood flying, so she dodged, and rolled out of the way towards the next Netherworld white tiger. Each tiger she reached simply fell to the ground, eyes still wide open in shock. Su Luo stood up and dodged the attack of the second Netherworld white tiger. At the same time, she turned around mid-air, and with the Chungying sword in hand, stabbed the still-roaring third tiger. The Chungying sword was so sharp, it sliced the Netherworld white tiger's body cleanly in half from the throat to the heart. The poor third Netherworld white tiger, it couldn't even roar before it was slain. At the same time, Su Luo's petite and slender body again turned mid-air, dodging the attack of the second Netherworld white tiger before rushing to the fourth. Just as the fourth Netherworld white tiger attacked Su Luo, she teleported away and disappeared in an instant. And so the poor fourth and second Netherworld white tigers. Boom! The loud noise deafened the 2 Netherworld white tigers. Their heads were practically being smashed together. As they were still stunned and dizzy, Su Luo had already rushed over and cut down the other 2 tigers with her Chungying sword. There were only 4 netherworld white tigers left. But Su Luo was becoming more excited. She burst straight forward. The 4 netherworld white tigers also rushed towards Su Luo angrily. Just a short distance away, Su Luo disappeared again. When she reappeared, her back was pressed to the ground, and she was lying in ambush underneath one of the netherworld white tigers. Rip! As the Chungying sword couldn't be used, Su Luo had already switched to the Yanhua dagger. Yanhua's dagger was infused with the raging fire of the fallen red lotus. These two together as one made an extremely powerful combination. Su Luo brutally cut through the chest all the way to the netherworld white tiger's abdomen. Chapter 2179, Triumphant 2. The internal organs rolled to the ground, while Su Luo had already shot herself back up, and was riding on the 6th netherworld white tiger, before it could even react. With a violent slash, Su Luo had sliced its neck open. Thud. The netherworld white tiger's neck was ripped open by the dagger, and rolled onto the ground, spilling blood everywhere. The remaining 2 netherworld white tigers were now trembling in fear. Then they turned and ran in the opposite direction, sobbing as they fled. They had been terrorizing this region for so long, but they had never encountered such a ferocious female demon. How frightening! Su Luo wiped away the fresh blood splashed on her face, then threw the dagger carrying the flames of the fallen red lotus towards one of the running netherworld white tigers. Su Luo's calculations were precise, so she hit the target right on. The dagger went all the way in. Moreover, because the dagger was infused with flames of the fallen red lotus, when it made contact, the flame leapt all around the entire body of the netherworld white tiger, and soon, the tiger was scorched from the inside out, emitting wisps of white smoke, its huge body trembling and spasming on the ground. The last remaining netherworld white tiger. How could Su Luo let it go? She teleported and then teleported again. And Su Luo soon stood on the tiger that had thought it escaped, and threw a long vine at it. The vine rushed through the netherworld white tiger's snout, piercing through its mouth, and tied a knot. On the netherworld white tiger, she actually put on a nose muzzle like one would do to an old bull in the field. What? At this moment, Li Man Man's entire body was stunned, her mind in serious conflict, and she could only stare wide-eyed at Su Luo as if she was looking at a possessed demon. Was this not a little too much of an exaggeration? Li Man Man was stupefied. She couldn't take her astonished gaze away from Su Luo. Then, she reached out and grabbed senior brother Luo Qing, whispering, "Have my eyes deceived me? Did that really just happen?" Senior brother Luo Qing had a complicated expression. He looked in silence at Su Luo and shook his head. "No. Then am I dreaming now?" Senior brother Luo Qing, did we just witness that trash Su Luo show off godly strength? Li Man Man turned to look at her senior brother Luo Qing, wanting to cry. Senior brother Luo Qing gently patted her head. He understood how Li Man Man was feeling at the moment, so he spoke slowly. "You aren't dreaming, everything you just saw is real." "But she's only a 7-star commander rank. How could a 7-star commander rank be stronger than you?" Li Man Man couldn't accept that this was true. She could recall in shame how bad she had treated Su Luo. She wanted to bury her head in the sand. It was so embarrassing. Li Man Man did not bury her head in the sand but into senior brother Luo Qing's chest. Oh, she didn't have the face to see anyone right now. As her companions stood frozen on the spot. What was Su Luo doing now? She was now squatting on the ground, collecting the points for each fallen tiger. As she swiped her diamond token, her mood improved bit by bit. Oh my, what a wonderful harvest! The netherworld white tigers were each worth 3,000 points, so with Su Luo's diamond token, they added up to 15,000. A total of 8. Oh no, the one left alive didn't count. In total there were 7. And 105,000 points were in Su Luo's hands. After collecting her points, Su Luo grabbed one of the netherworld white tigers next to her and waved it around, trying to grab the attention of the senior brothers and senior sister in front of her. Seeing the stupefied figures, Su Luo smiled cheekily. "What are you doing? Are you all frozen?" "Su Luo, you," Tian Mang as straightforward as ever began. "I've offended you before, please don't take it to heart. I've always had this temper, I can't hold back my words." Su Luo waved her hand. I don't blame you, what's the hurry? Senior brother Luo Qing also smiled and said, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. I've never given you a single chance to prove yourself, and as a deputy leader, I am in fact the one to blame. Su Luo smiled again, shaking her head. Deputy leader, it was because you were trying to protect me, so what is there to blame? Su Yin cupped his fists towards Su Luo and said nothing, as silent as ever. Once everyone had expressed their thoughts, it was now Li Manman's turn. Li Manman squirmed, her fists by her sides clenching and unclenching repeatedly. Su Luo didn't wait for her to speak and broke the silence. Senior brother Luo Qing, the points? Su Luo waved the diamond token in her hands. You were the one who killed all the Netherworld white tigers, so it is only right these points belong to you. There is no need to distribute them. Senior brother Luo Qing spoke, waving his hands. In reality, all they had been doing at the time was flee, so they had no rights to any of these points. If it weren't for Su Luo stepping in and defeating the tigers, they would have been in great danger. There was really no point in distributing the points. Then, I suppose I'll have to keep all of them. Su Luo hadn't planned to share the points in the first place, so she responded with satisfaction. What are you keeping this Netherland white tiger for? Senior brother Luo Qing asked Su Luo with curiosity. The tigers were arrogant and wild beasts that were difficult to tame. And yet, one of them had been caught by Su Luo, who roped it by its nose and led it around like an old cow. Su Luo hopped onto the back of the Netherworld white tiger. Then, patting its back, she told senior brother Luo Qing with a grin. Obviously, it is so that I can use it as a mount. Well, everyone was speechless. Su Luo swept her gaze onto Li Manman's face, who subconsciously avoided her eyes. Li Manman thought of herself jumping up and down like a clown. Her face red with shame, she stomped her feet and glared with anger at Su Luo. If you are so powerful, why did you lie to us before? You tell me, what did I ever lie to you about? Su Lu looked at her. Li Manman was speechless for a moment but soon thought. You could have shown us your own strength. Su Luo threw up her hands helplessly. Weren't you the one who told me to just watch the fight while eating pine nuts? You lied to us that you were only a 7-star commander rank. Li Manman complained. But I really am a 7-star commander rank. Su Luo countered with an innocent look. Li Manman was frantic, angry, depressed. You think you're so good, huh? Li Manman furiously huffed and turned her back. Is it bad that I'm so good? The more powerful I am, the more I can help your senior brother Luo, so isn't this a good thing? Su Luo said with a smile. When Li Manman thought about it, it was indeed as she said, the more powerful she was, the better. I'll let you go this time, just mark my words. Li Manman again was quick to throw harsh words at Su Luo. Chapter 2180, Life and Death 1. The idiom about how 3 women were enough for a drama needed no mention here. These 2 women were enough to perform an entire play on their own one. After revealing her true strength, Su Luo had originally planned to take a seat back and enjoy the show. However, it was no longer possible for her to do so anymore. Not only that, she had now been designated the team's main firepower. Who said that the most capable ones had to do the most work? Senior brother Luo Qing. The demonic tarantulas on the left side draw 3 of them away. Tian Meng, don't randomly wander about everywhere and pay attention. Su Yin, go into stealth mode and go over there. Oh, and take care of 2 of the demonic tarantulas on the left. Finish them up within 3 minutes. Also, Li Manman, why the hell are you pursuing something wasteful as aesthetic appeal when you should be condensing your blade? You can't even save your own life like that. After revealing her true strength, Su Luo had gradually turned into a field commander, and turned into the group's core. Even senior brother Luo Qing was pushed to take a step back in the leadership position. However, Su Luo indeed possessed the skills for the role. Under her command, the Xiao Luo team lunged towards the demonic beasts with double the efficiency, killing them so fast that everyone's waist pouches had bulged out from the loot. Regarding the distribution of points, Su Luo naturally took her share first. Li Manman accidentally swept a look across Su Luo's diamond token. Upon doing so, her legs instantly turned soft as shock flashed past her eyes. Every single demonic tarantula in this group only had 3,000 points, yet a value of 15,000 was floating above Su Luo's diamond token. After seeing this, what else was there that Li Man did not understand? She took a step back and another, before finally positioning herself beside Deputy Leader Luo Qing. Her blank eyes continued to remain on Su Luo, yet her words were said to the team leader. That diamond token, is it for real? An absent-minded look had appeared on her face like she was dreaming. Too inconceivable. Su Luo, the person that Li Man had held in disdain before, was not only at the 7th star of the commander rank which exceeded everyone within the squadron, but she also had a genuine diamond token. Senior brother Luo Qing choked on the water he had just taken a sip of. Cough cough, what did you say? Grabbing hold of the deputy leader Luo Qing's sleeve, Li Man's face was overwhelmed with emotions as she exclaimed. It's real. Her token is real. She really has 5 times the score. From her earlier discussion with Tian Meng, she had concluded that Su Luo was just making things more complicated with extra things. Who would have known that she had earned more than the entire squadron combined just with a simple and easy capture of one demonic tarantula's brain? One could really die from anger by comparing oneself to someone else. Senior brother Luo Qing looked speechlessly at Su Luo. Finally, with a sigh, he gave Li Man's shoulder a pat. She's a person both senior brother Luo and the city lord treats favorably. You better not target her in the future, okay? Li Man snorted twice in response. But I still hate her. Senior brother Luo's innocence still rests on her shoulders. After this revelation, despite not showing any warmth towards Su Luo, Li Man didn't continue ridiculing the former, allowing an unprecedented harmony to form within the squadron. 5 days later, they'd finally arrived at their destination. Right before them was a perfectly straight cliff, where the poisonous serpent scorpion grass grew from. Nevertheless, Su Luo didn't rush up impulsively. Every spirit grass had a demonic beast guardian. At the moment, a 1,000-eyed condor was flying overhead, marking its territory. Like a tiger watching its prey, the 1,000-eyed condor shot a hostile glare towards this group of humans that had just arrived. How about I go up? Senior brother Luo Qing asked after seeing Su Luo's lack of movement. However, a deep crease appeared on Su Luo's forehead as she shook her head slowly. It's still not the time yet. Why? That condor isn't that formidable, right? Senior brother Luo Qing should be able to deal with it. Li Man said complacently. However, Su Luo proceeded to shake her head again. There are others here. We won't be able to survive a pincer attack. Others? Li Man's eyes were filled with doubt. Where? Just when Su Luo finished her reply, a bout of crazed laughter instantly rang out from the undergrowth before them. Ha ha ha, not bad, you wretched girl. You even managed to see through this. As those words rang out, a group of 4 people appeared before Su Luo. Because this place rarely frequented people year-round, wild grass grew haphazardly across the entire area to heights that towered even people. Therefore, it was no wonder why those people were able to conceal themselves without being discovered by Luo Qing. Having just entered Upstream Mountain, the number of people that Su Luo had bumped across with did not exceed 10. However, she had exchanged greetings with 3 out of the 4 people that had just appeared before. Aren't those 3 people part of the group of men that follows Fairy Wuyu around all day? Li Man pointed towards the group of people that appeared. That's Yin Xiao. Although he's ranked at only 95th place on the dragon list, Fairy Wuyu still dotes on him for his good looks. The 2 dark-skinned people are called Mo Zhe and Mo Li. They're twins and are ranked 87th and 88th on the dragon list. The strongest one among them is the one dressed in a blue embroidered robe and crown band, Lan Yen, and he's ranked 75th on the dragon list. Su Luo did not have any idea what being the 75th rank on the dragon list meant, resulting in her asking, "What about you guys? What ranks are you guys on dragon list?" Li Man froze for an instant before pointing towards senior brother Luo Qing. Squadron leader's the strongest among us, but his ranking on the dragon list is only 86th. Su Luo. Then how do I compare to Lan Yen? Asked Su Luo. Li Man shot a silent look at her before finally deciding to say the truth. Don't look down on the 75th ranked person on the dragon list. Lan Ningyan has already reached the 4-star saint rank. Do you think you can defeat him? After reaching the saint rank, there was a considerable difference between each star ranking. 4-star saint rank. The difference was too great. Su Luo shook her head. As of now, she didn't have the confidence to defeat him. While they were talking, four people had already arrived pridefully in front of Su Luo and the others. What are you people doing here? Li Man asked after stealing her face. Why did we appear here? Of course, we're waiting for you guys. Yen Xiao replied with an ambiguous upward curl in the corner of his mouth, sending a ridiculing look at Su Luo. Aren't you guys too weak? We've been waiting here for 2 days already, all just for you guys. No matter how stupid she might be, Li Man was able to see through the other party's intention right away. What the hell do you guys want? Li Man shouted back as she positioned herself right in front of Su Luo. Yen Xiao extended a slender and jade-like finger to push Li Man away, while replying with a sneer. None of your business. Move aside and stay there. No. Li Man raised her chest and replied. Are you looking to die? Yen Xiao shot a vicious glare at Li Man. Move aside and stay there, and we'll spare your lives on the account of senior brother Luo. What about her? Li Man pointed towards Su Luo. Her? Haha. She still dares to live after disrespecting Fairy Wuyu? In your dreams. Yen Xiao spitted on the ground. Did Fairy Wuyu send you guys? Crossing her arms, an indifferent smile appeared on Su Luo's face, as she shot a ridiculing sidelong glance back at them. Chapter 2181. Life and Death 2. Li Man was immediately anxious and angrily rebuked. What's the matter with you guys? Didn't you agree to a 1-year period? Do you think that the battle of life and death is a fake? That's fine, since you guys don't take this agreement seriously, then hurry up and cancel this vile agreement. Li Man was full of expectations. But Yen Zhao's words shattered her fantasy. The 1-year agreement, that was the agreement between Fairy Wuyu and Su Luo. It has nothing to do with us, brothers, what do you say? Yen Xiao smiled wickedly toward his people. Those people all revealed knowing smiles, and all one by one gave Yen Xiao thumbs-ups in return. Su Luo's indifferent gaze swept over them. A sneer of disdain appeared at the corner of her mouth. The positions of these people were also quite interesting. Although there were only 4 individuals, they occupied 4 directions, front and back, left and right, surrounding the group of 5. Unfortunately, on Su Luo's side, even the deputy leader was only ranked 83rd on the dragon list. Even the others combined were not the equal opponents of the opposing party. This was really challenging for Su Luo. Big Sister Wei's poison had been inflicted by Fairy Wuyu herself. She knew that Su Luo needed the poisonous serpent scorpion grass, and so she had these 4 people come and ambush her. Since this was the case, Fairy Wuyu must be very sure of the strength of these 4 people. Li Man sneered at this moment. Isn't this Fairy Wuyu shameless? First she sent you as the lead. If you kill Su Luo, great, if not, then Fairy Wuyu will simply wait a year to strike? Haha. What a good plan for her to have all these advantages. Yen Xiao frowned. Li Man, your senior brother Luo is about to be sent out because of this girl. Aren't you angry? Reasonably speaking, this team should probably hate Su Luo very much. Precisely because of such speculations, they had stepped out without any reservations instead of following Fairy Wuyu's instructions of secretly taking action. They thought that by instigating this Xiao Luo team, they would leave Su Luo alone and helpless, betrayed by them. This would force her to face so many people alone, and would be the most tormenting for her. How could Li Man not be angry? Each time she thought of senior brother Luo's innocence, she was furious to the point that her lungs felt like they would explode. Although at first, she had raised her eyebrows at Su Luo, after these few days of getting along with each other, Li Man had changed her opinion of Su Luo a great deal. She could bully Su Luo, but definitely would not allow others to bully her. Therefore Li Man looked at Yen Xiao with a sneer, stepped forward, and steadily stood in front of Su Luo. It's my own business whether I'm angry or not. It has nothing to do with you, however. If you want to touch Su Luo, you'll have to step over my dead body. Li Manman's reaction surprised Yin Xiao. Meanwhile, senior brother Luo Qing, Tian Mang, and Su Yin had also positioned themselves in all four directions, surrounding Su Luo one by one. Seeing this, Yin Xiao sneered with disdain in his eyes. Lan Ningyan shook his hand and a long sword appeared in it, snorting coldly. It seems that you'd rather drink punishment wine and refuse the toast one? Emoli smiled lightly. A few of you fighting against us is simply sending yourselves to death. As long as you all promise not to interfere, for the sake of senior brother Luo, we can let you live. However, senior brother Luo Qing and the others had absolutely no intention to move away at all. Li Manman knew that once they made a move, Su Luo was extremely likely to be killed, so she hurriedly shouted out loud. You can't kill her. Oh. Emoli smiled warmly. Senior brother Luo won't stand up for a dead person. Let's set senior brother Luo aside. Do you all dare to violate even the orders of the city lord? Li Manman pointed her finger at Su Luo. She, Su Luo, is a person handpicked by the city lord. If the city lord returns, all of you, one by one, will die. Who knew that Emoli and the others would look up to the sky laughing? If she was one of the people handpicked by the city lord, then we would all be the city lord's own sons. Su Luo. We have evidence. Li Manman shouted. However, these people weren't giving Su Luo any more chances. Lan Ningyan could only be seen to give a cold sneer and said softly, No more nonsense, come on. While Li Manman was screaming, these four people pounced like fierce tigers towards the Xiao Luo team. Su Luo run. Senior brother Luo Qing fiercely pushed Su Luo out of the circle of battle. After several battles together, everyone in the Xiao Luo team knew that Su Luo could teleport, so as long as she ran away, she would definitely be able to escape. How could Su Luo run at this time? If she really ran away, these four people would vent their anger on the head of the Xiao Luo team. The lives of senior brother Luo Qing and the others would be put in jeopardy. In a flash, Su Luo's figure moved. When she reappeared, she had already arrived behind Lan Ningyan. Lan Ningyan sneered. You've come very good. Nevertheless, in an instant, they had already exchanged 49 moves. Although it was Lan Ningyan who was attacking, he was slightly shocked in his heart at this moment, because Su Luo's strength was actually far beyond his expectations. He had originally thought that the small 7-star commander rank would take no effort to deal with. Just a slap would turn her into mush. However, after they really fought, Lan Ningyan realized that this girl was more difficult to deal with than a 3-star saint rank. Her speed was almost as fast as lightning. Her attack power was strong and domineering. That flexibility and agility, that rich combat experience. This was simply not what a 7-star commander rank should possess. You are concealing your strength. You are not a 7-star commander rank at all. Lan Ningyan came to this conclusion. Su Luo's face was cold and calm, however, her heart was anxious. Her mind was quickly flashing with a plan to disengage. The current her, even at full strength, was not a match for Lan Ningyan. Moreover, Su Luo's gaze swept over to where senior brother Luo Qing and the others were dwarfed by the other 3 people. They were really struggling. She was afraid they would most likely not be able to survive for any more than the time it took to burn a stick of incense. The Xiao Luo team would never leave her. How could she escape without the others? What could she do to retreat completely and still keep the Xiao Luo team safe? Under Lan Ningyan's attack, Su Luo kept losing ground and eventually collapsed. Boom! Lan Ningyan viciously smashed Su Luo's abdomen with a heavy blow. Su Luo's body was like a kite with a broken string. She was thrown far away before finally falling heavily to the ground, causing a deep, giant crater to appear on the ground. Su Luo spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. At the same time, Lan Ningyan was already running speedily towards her. He stretched out his long arms and grabbed Su Luo's right foot, pulling her whole person as if he was carrying a little fox. Ha ha ha. How can I get rid of you? Killing? No, too fast. Burning to death? Not fun. Beaten to death? Too bloody, not good. Lan Ningyan carried Su Luo in a very distressed manner. Oh yes, how about smashing you to death? Ha ha ha. Lan Ningyan nodded to himself in approval, praising himself for his own wit. Then he lifted Su Luo high above his head with both hands, sinking his chi into his dantian. It appeared that he was about to smash Su Luo completely. Chapter 2182, Life and Death 3. He suddenly felt a scorching heat on the top of his head, and he reached out his hand to touch it. It was burning hot. "Senior brother Lan, your hair is on fire," Yan Xiao yelled out when he saw this. At this time, Lan Yin's hair had already been burned, and it was burning vigorously. Not long after, black smoke appeared. Hair, to begin with, was already a flammable material, and adding on to that, it had been burnt by the flames of the fallen red lotus. This fire was not at all easy to extinguish. Lan Yin was angry to the point of wanting to just slap Su Luo to death. By now, even if he was mentally disabled, he had already figured out that the only one who could have set his hair on fire was the Su Luo who he had currently raised above his head. At this moment, the person Lan Yin wanted to slap the most was himself. Killing, beating to death, burning to death, all of these would work, but he had been so mentally disabled at that moment, choosing out of all things, to smash Su Luo to death. This allowed her the chance to get close to him, and enabled her to retaliate. In reality, much of his power had not yet been displayed. Lan Yin no longer had the time to think about any of this. The most important thing for him right now was to hurry and extinguish the scorching flames on his head. Su Luo wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. A cold and sly smile flashed under her eyes. In a flash, she slipped to the side, fiercely stabbing a dagger towards Lan Yin's chest. If Su Luo stabbed him, Lan Yin would probably be half dead. At this time, Lan Yin was busy extinguishing the fire, but he turned around to avoid Su Luo's deathly attack. Who knew that Su Luo seemed to have expected this move ahead of time? She leaned sideways and leaped over Lan Yin's right hand. The dagger slashed across his arm. Pfft! A clear ringing sound was heard. Lan Yin looked down, and was instantly furious. The dagger had cut a bloody wound into his right arm. The wound was not big, and the amount of blood flowing out was very little. However, the blood that flowed out was green. It was obvious that Su Luo had smeared poison on the dagger. "You dare to use poison?" Lan Yin extinguished the last cluster of flames above his head, flying towards Su Luo wildly. His eyes were flashing with rage. Su Luo sneered. "I already used it. What else do I not dare to do? Since you are asking this question, it shows that your brain has already been damaged by the flames." Lan Yin almost went crazy with anger. But at this time, he found that the strength in his arms was disappearing, and this feeling of powerlessness was spreading towards his limbs and his bones. Lan Yin was so angry that he was going crazy. "Quickly bring out the antidote." Su Luo sneered, but at that instant, a miserable scream came from Li Man Man. Su Luo turned her head, and saw that several members of the Xiao Luo team had all been controlled by their opponent. One by one, cold swords lay across their necks. They would be dead if the cold swords fell. Yan Xiao finally saw what Lan Yin presently looked like. He was so shocked that his eyes were about to pop out. The originally beautiful man's hair was burnt to the extent where there was a piece of hair to the east and another to the west, one piece of red and one piece of white. His face was pitch black, and even his clothes had been burned into with small black holes. He simply could not appear more wretched. "Senior brother Lan Yu." Yan Xiao covered his eyes and couldn't bear to see any more. Lan Yin knew how embarrassing he appeared at this moment, but his life was more important. He pointed at Su Luo with his long sword and said angrily, "Hurry up and hand over the antidote, or your Xiao Luo team will be collectively finished off." Su Luo snickered, hands crossed behind her back, and looking up at the sky. "We are finished, you are also finished. This seems fair enough. You really think that nobody but you can cure this poison?" A shadow of malice flashed under Lan Yin's eyes. "Then you take a look. Do you know what kind of poison this is?" The corners of Su Luo's mouth twitched slightly. A cruel touch flashed across her thin lips. This poison was incredible. Master had refined it, and it was called a sword to seal the throat. The amount Su Luo possessed was very small, so she would not use it in a normal situation, and only used it this time because it was a matter of life or death. Would Lan Yin be able to identify this poison? Entirely impossible. At this time, Yan Xiao and the others ran up and circled Lan Ningyan, but they, however, were all helpless towards this poison. At this point, things had come to a deadlock. Lan Ningyan could clearly see a green meridian now appearing on his right arm, and this green meridian was moving upstream at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was only just now on the elbow, but now it had already almost reached the shoulder. Su Luo smilingly interjected. Wait until the green meridian reaches the heart. You have worked so hard during your life to reach 75th place on the dragon list. I feel sorry for you. Don't glare at me. Anyway, if we all are going to die, it is not considered a loss for me, a person who is at the bottom of dragon list, to be buried alongside you. Su Luo was now betting everyone's life on this. As the saying goes, those who are barefoot are not afraid of those who wear one. Lan Ningyan's life was more precious than hers. Su Luo had already calculated, they wouldn't let him die. Brother Lan, right now we still hold the advantage. Can we really still be threatened by this vile wench? Sit there and wait for me, I'll kill her. Yan Xiao said. He hadn't yet finished his sentence when he was already rushing towards Su Luo to attack. Su Luo's mouth curled into a sly, cold smile. She knew that these people usually appeared as if they were harmonious. However, when it came to critical moments, they wouldn't hesitate to get rid of each other. In their hearts, these men were jealous of each other. It was quite scary. Before Yan Xiao approached her, Su Luo said provocatively, "But if you die, the spot next to Fairy Wu Yu would happen to be freed up. For example, some of these people here, they could take advantage of the situation." Su Luo's words incited their jealousy. Hey, stinky girl, what do you mean? Yan Xiao was already in a bad mood. After hearing Su Luo's words, he was so furious he began trembling with anger, glaring at her anxiously. At this moment he no longer dared to go up and attack, and he just pointed at Su Luo with the tip of the sword. I meant exactly what I said. If there is anyone who is anxious or frustrated, it shows that that person wants to take this position. Su Luo leaned against the trunk of the old tree, and looked at Yan Xiao with a smile. She downplayed Yan Xiao's words, but it made him almost explode with anger, because Su Luo's words were true, and they were piercing into his heart. Lan Ningyan glanced at Yan Xiao with a suspicious look, and then looked over Mo Li and the others' faces one by one. He had to admit that Su Luo's words did make sense. Now, the state of affairs had fallen into a very delicate situation. Lan Ningyan and his team controlled Su Luo's team, leaving Su Luo the only one remaining. However, the team leader Lan Ningyan had been poisoned by Su Luo, and aside from her, no one else could treat this a sword to seal a throat poison. At the same time, Lan Ningyan's team was not harmonious, and the other three people were also eyeing his position. Right now, the two opposing sides were in balance, only because no one knew how much strength they had left. And this very situation had been designed by Su Luo to allow them to retreat. She could neither overly weaken Lan Ningyan, nor not weaken him at all. She had deliberately shown her weakness earlier, and this included purposefully allowing herself to be beaten by Lan Ningyan, so as to trap him into this dilemma and leave him with no choice but to temporarily suspend this fight. Yan Xiao wanted to disregard all of this and rush up to kill Su Luo, so that he could contribute. However, under Lan Ningyan's gaze, his footsteps seemed to be nailed to the ground, and he was unable to move. Chapter 2183. Life and Death 4. With a shrug, Su Luo spread her hands and said casually, "Young Master Lan, you are a wise man. Is there a need for you to ask me? We can have a truce, but you must hand over the antidote." With a move of his body, Lan Ningyan appeared right before Su Luo. Despite continuing to wear a casual smile as though nothing had bothered her, Su Luo's body had turned tense as she entered a state of alert emergency. From the beginning, she worked step by step, calculating all possibilities, which finally led to this deadlock. She couldn't fall short just because of her carelessness in one aspect. She proceeded to reply with a faint smile. "Young Master Lan wants to capture me and then search for the antidote. However, this method is pointless, because I only brought out a part of the antidote. The other part is with senior brother Luo." Lan Ningyan balled up his sleeve-covered fists. What a wench! She was witty and had an airtight defense. So, how should we proceed? Lan Ningyan's voice was deep and coarse as he forcefully suppressed his anger. It's very simple. I will give you a part of the antidote. After our team returns to Wuxia Mountain safely, I will give you the other part of the antidote. Under the fierce gaze of Lan Ningyan, Su Luo continued to smile faintly, like a light, calm-blowing breeze, as though nothing could shake her at all. Lan Ningyan could feel the green meridian going deeper and deeper. At this moment, it was not far from the heart and the lungs. What if you don't fulfill your promise after returning to Wuxia Mountain? Lan Ningyan said defensively. Have you forgotten that this is a world where strength is respected? Su Luo squinted at him. What she meant was that Lan Ningyan was stronger than her, so how dare she break her promise? Nevertheless, Lan Ningyan wasn't that easy to fool. With an aggressive look in his eyes, he glared back at her. Unless you promise to go back to Wuxia Mountain and fight a life or death duel with me in the gravity chamber. Lan Ningyan felt that he succumbed completely to his anger, resulting in him playing right into Su Luo's hands. With his real strength, not even 10 of Su Luo's would be enough to kill him. It was another huge declaration of war. Su Luo looked at Lan Ningyan with a cold gaze, taking in the undisguised arrogance and killing intent present in his eyes. Su Luo saw looks of malice flashing through the eyes of Yan Xiao and the others. She knew that if she didn't agree to this duel, they would unite and kill Lan Ningyan, followed by herself. It would be troublesome if that occurs. Su Luo raised her mouth slightly. A life and death battle? Alright, but it will be in a month. Would she be able to undergo a massive increase in strength in that month? A ridiculing sneer appeared at the corner of Lan Ningyan's mouth, though he proceeded to nod. Sure. As a result, the two people signed a life and death battle without regard for anyone else. Su Luo swept her indifferent gaze over Yan Xiao and the others, before throwing a vermilion pill to Lan Ningyan. Swallow it. It will work immediately. Yan Xiao exchanged quite a few glances with the others. However, as no one dared to go first, it resulted in his hesitation to move. And while they were still thinking, Lan Ningyan had already consumed that half of the antidote. At that moment, an unconcealed look of disappointment flashed in their eyes. That was their best chance to get rid of Lan Ningyan. Let's go. Probably feeling too embarrassed by the chain of events, Lan Ningyan threw off those two words in a cold voice, with him already dashing away from the scene. Yan Xiao shot Su Luo a glare with his gloom-filled eyes, before making a beheading gesture with his right hand toward Su Luo. Nevertheless, he still stomped off full of anger in pursuit of Lan Ningyan. In the end, both Mo Li and Mo Zhe stomped angrily in turn and followed suit. It was only after all of them had left that Li Man came back to her senses. She looked at Su Luo in amazement. I didn't expect for you to have a solution in hand. I thought you were destined to die this time. You really are too damn smart. You've actually managed to pull those arrogant peacocks by their noses. Being able to turn a disadvantage into an advantageous situation when the entire army was about to be wiped out was not something ordinary people could accomplish. Su Luo smiled faintly, appearing not to care. Since you were in danger because of me, how could I leave you alone? Li Man looked at Su Luo with a magical gaze. There was admiration in her eyes that she had never showed before, but after she realized she was treating Su Luo too well, she changed her expression into a fierce look. Don't be too proud of yourself. Senior brother Luo's innocence still hangs on you. Su Luo rubbed her nose with a wry smile. Senior brother Luo Qing looked at Su Luo with worry in his eyes. Does senior brother Luo Qing have something to say? Su Luo asked when she saw that he was hesitant to speak. Senior brother Luo Qing frowned. Having just fought against Lan Ningyan, you know his true strength better than anyone else. How would you be able to deal with his life and death battle? The battered and bruised Tian Meng was even more direct. That's right, little Luo Luo. Although you are very strong, you still can't beat Lan Ningyan at all. Are you sure you are not going to die? Su Yin also looked at Su Luo with concern, with a slight frown appearing on his face. Li Man followed up. What can we do? This is a life and death battle. There's no way for you to reject it after agreeing to it. What are you all afraid of? Didn't he just get beaten by me? He doesn't seem any bit extraordinary at all, you know. Su Luo replied with an indifferent smile. Nevertheless, Brother Luoqing continued to stare at Su Luo sternly. Just now, Lan Ningyan assumed that you only possess a 7-star commander rank. This resulted in him being too careless. He underestimated you, so he didn't use his true strength, which led to his loss. Li Manman nodded frantically. Senior Brother Luoqing continued to speak in a serious tone. However, after this, Lan Ningyan will be prepared for you. Next time he won't be careless, let alone merciful. I assume that you'll have no room left for any counterattack once he makes his move. After all, there was a huge disparity in strength between the two. Su Luo stroked her chin in contemplation. Upon raising her head and seeing the concerned expressions of the people in her team, she smiled. We can cross that bridge when we reach one. Isn't this still a month away? Why are you getting overwhelmed with worry? I feel that you all seem to have forgotten the main purpose of us coming to the magical beast zone this time. At this time, everyone remembered about the poisonous serpent scorpion grass. The moment Su Luo flew up to pick the poisonous serpent scorpion grass, Li Manman made a statement. Now I really don't know whether it's us protecting her or her protecting us for our trip into the inner magical beast zone. Everyone. In Su Luo's view, the thousand-eyed condor was much easier to deal with than Lan Ningyan's group. It didn't take long before she flew down the cliff with the poisonous serpent scorpion grass. At this point, the task of entering the inner magical beast zone was considered completed. However, due to Lan Ningyan's life and death battle, everyone was in a bad mood. Therefore, they rushed back, returning to Wuxia Mountain in less than 3 days. Inside Wuxia Mountain, when Luo Yichen heard Su Luo and Lan Ningyan's duel, his brows furrowed slightly, before he stood up and paced about in the training room. After pacing back and forth, the usual calm expression reappeared on his handsome face, before following up with a sigh. It's still all right. This will give that naughty girl more pressure that will in turn motivate her to train harder. Only through this will her strength grow fast. After thinking about it, Luo Yichen still proceeded to transfer some points towards Su Luo's diamond token. Chapter 2184. Gravity Chamber, 1. Although Big Sister Wei's matters were handled, Su Luo now had to focus her mind and deal with her own bet. Lan Ningyan was very strong. If it hadn't been for Lan Ningyan underestimating her, there was no way he would give her the opportunity to make trouble. On the aspect of combat strength, Su Luo would not be able to even make 10 moves in front of him. What should I do? Su Luo stroked her chin, her mind deep in thought as she paced around the hall. Hey, can't you just sit down? You're making my head dizzy from all of your pacing. Li Manman shot a sullen glare at Su Luo. Upon looking at her, Su Luo's eyes lit up. Li Manman, come here. Su Luo said while hooking her finger. What? Despite being seemingly impatient, Li Manman was not able to resist her curiosity, so she ran up in compliance towards Su Luo. Do you have a fast way to improve your cultivation level? Or any methods? Su Luo felt that there must be some methods to accomplish this feat within Genius Training Camp. She remembered the first elder said before that there was an extreme abundance of cultivation resources inside there. Li Manman nodded while knocking on the savory pine nuts. Of course there is. Don't you know about it? However, let me tell you that, even if you know, there isn't any door for you to enter. Why? Su Luo also grabbed a handful of pine nuts and broke them open. Because you don't have points. Li Manman shot Su Luo a look of disgust. For us, the best training resource is the gravity chamber. However, you need a lot of points in order to use the gravity chamber. You won't be able to afford it. I do have points. Su Luo waved her diamond token. Only then did Li Manman remember about Su Luo's benefit of having a 5x multiplication to her accumulated points. However, she still shook her head. How many total points do you have now? Su Luo counted. Over 100,000. Before, she was indeed extremely poor. This time, she earned those 100,000 over points by entering the inner magical beast zone with little Luo's team. Upon hearing that Su Luo had 100,000 points, Li Manman's eyes widened, staring at her with a look of disbelief. What a good diamond token! You actually have over 100,000 points. Su Luo also felt that 100,000 points were really hard to get, causing her to recall back on the time she had robbed the Guardian Lord. Now she was much richer than him. Li Man waved her hand repeatedly. Forget it, even over 100,000 points are not enough to pay for 1 day of usage in the gravity chamber. It's that expensive? Su Luo frowned. Does it really have to be in the gravity chamber? Of course. If you want to defeat Lan Ningyan, you need to use the gravity chamber. Li Man nodded. All of a sudden, she picked up her communication amulet. After taking a look at it, her expression changed slightly, then she shot a stiff look at Su Luo. What's the matter? Su Luo had a bad feeling rising within her. Lan Ningyan is getting ready to enter the gravity chamber. Li Man swallowed hard. According to the rumors, Fairy Wuyu has provided him with enough points to cultivate for a month. Oh, Su Luo nodded. A what? Li Man burst out, stood up for an instant, and walked around the room anxiously. Lan Ningyan is already much stronger than you. Now he's going to practice in the gravity chamber. 1 month later, you won't even be able to handle a single move from him. It's all your fault. Why did you give him the remaining half of the antidote? Your win would be guaranteed if you didn't give it to him. Oh, what should I do? What should I do? This won't cut it. I have to find the leader and the others and see if I can gather any significant number of points at all. Chapter 2185. Gravity Chamber 2. Li Man was about to run away. But at this time, Su Luo's diamond token flashed with a ray of bright light. Su Luo grabbed the diamond token, looked at it, and became a little dumbfounded. Wait! She called out to stop Li Man. What? Li Man yelled at Su Luo with impatience. Now that you are in a hot place, how can you be so calm? This was really the case in which the emperor was not in a hurry, but rather the eunuch was the anxious one. Points. I have them. Su Luo waved around the money. I don't know who sponsored a number of points. Sponsorship? How much can it be? That's nothing more than a drop in the bucket, okay? Li Man glared at Su Luo, speaking in a bad tone. What if it's 10 million points? Su Luo looked at her with a smile, tossing her diamond token up and down. 10 million points. Li Man felt that her entire self was going crazy, staring at Su Luo with the gaze of a fool. Anyway, she wouldn't believe this. Nonetheless, seeing Su Luo full of self-confidence, she approached her suspiciously. Su Luo displayed the number of points in the diamond token. Li Man sucked in a cold breath of air. There were so many zeros. Seeing all those zeros, Li Man felt dizzy, unable to count them accurately. After counting numerous times and finally confirming the amount, she raised her head, looking at Su Luo in a daze, and gritted her teeth. Didn't you say over 100,000 points? Su Luo shrugged. I already said someone just sponsored it. Do you think everyone else is an idiot? That's 10 million points, 10 million. Even if Li Man was sold, they wouldn't be able to collect that many points. Who is stupid enough to send you so much? Suddenly, Li Man covered her mouth and looked around. Someone able to take out such a large amount of points at once and then give it away. Even after searching the entire genius training camp, there would hardly be a few, but now there was actually someone in the castle who... It wouldn't be Senior Brother Luo, right? Li Man asked foolishly. Su Luo shrugged her shoulders. It's possible. It wasn't just possible. In fact, in her heart, Su Luo was absolutely certain that it was Senior Brother Luo, because other than him, Su Luo had no other backers. Li Man looked at Su Luo's diamond token in surprise. The 10 million points were an extreme shock to her. By the way, what exactly is so good about the gravity chamber? After getting the points, Su Luo felt more emboldened. As for what she owed to Luo Yichen, well, she already owed him so much anyway. Once Nangong Luyin returned, she would just ask him to pay it back. Su Luo thought in her heart. Of course, the gravity chamber is good. Li Man came back to her senses and began to explain to Su Luo. 1 day passed in the gravity chamber is equivalent to 100 days passing in the outside world. You see, if you don't go in after a month, You will only have practice for 30 days while Lan Ningyan would have practice for 3,000 days. How would you be able to compete with him then? Su Luo gasped. Her training space was 1 to 10, and she had thought this was already great. She hadn't expected the gravity chamber to be 1 to 100. Indeed, as Li Man said, if Lan Ningyan could stay in the gravity chamber and practice for 3,000 days, then when he came out, she would not be able to beat him at all. I'm telling you, the gravity chamber not only has such a magical effect on time, but the most attractive thing is the heavy pressure. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called the gravity chamber, it would be the time room. Li Man kept gleefully boasting to Su Luo, explaining the science. In the gravity chamber, the weight pressure can be adjusted from 1 to 100 times. As long as you have the ability, you can adjust it to 100 times. Chapter 2186. Gravity Chamber 3. Of course, if you want to adjust it to 100 times right after entering, you don't need to come out anymore, since you'd be directly crushed into a mass of mush. Li Man said with a smile. How much does such a magical gravity chamber cost a day? 330,000 points a day. Li Man glanced at Su Luo sympathetically. 10 million points is only enough to stay for a month. I forgot to tell you, but Lan Ningyan and Fairy Wuyu also gave 10 million points there. Su Luo let out a cry. Fairy Wuyu was truly a rich woman, giving away 10 million points just like that with a wave of her hand. Su Luo began to reflect on herself, because compared to Fairy Wuyu, she was truly a poor person. After she spent all these 10 million points, she would return to being in abject poverty again. Let's go. In just this short amount of time, Lan Ningyan has already been inside cultivating for several days. Li Man urged Su Luo. Hurry, I'll take you to the gravity chamber. Under Li Man's urges, and with the guidance of the Xiao Luo team, Su Luo was rushed to the gravity chamber. Because the various training resources in the genius training camp were closer to the most powerful people, the gravity chamber wasn't far from Luo Yichen's mountain. 2 hours later, they had already arrived. From a distance, Su Luo saw a tall tower standing in the square, the tip of which towered into the clouds. The square was so wide you could hardly see the edges. Su Luo estimated that just the square in front of the tower was as big as an outside city. Today, the gravity chamber was more lively than other days. Outside the tower, many people were standing in groups of 2s and 3s, and they were all discussing excitedly. Fairy Wuyu is really generous. 10 million points. And she gave them away just like that. Of course, that's Fairy Wuyu for you. To her, 10 million points are nothing more than a drop in the bucket. That's true. Have you heard? Rumor has it that 2 new people have come from the midstream mountain, and one of them is clamoring to fight to the death with Fairy Wuyu. Ha, you guys are talking about the one called Su Luo, right? What kind of person is this who doesn't realize their own strength? She just came from the midstream mountain. She's last place in terms of strength, and she still dares to fight with Fairy Wuyu? Even a fight to the death? With a single slap, Fairy Wuyu would leave her with no shadow. You are a bit biased. Who said that girl is definitely ranked last? I heard that Lan Ningyan was beaten by that girl. That's why he's been training in the gravity chamber. He's training to fight with that girl to the death in a month. Hey, that's not the version I heard. How so? I heard that Fairy Wuyu has always been partial to Lan Ningyan, but she was afraid that the other men would be angry, so she deliberately found an excuse to send Lan Ningyan in for cultivation. It's not like what you said about that girl from the midstream defeating him. That's right, Lan Ningyan is at least ranked 75th on the dragon list. You think a girl who just came up from below can beat him? Dream on. The group of people talked on, and their discussion became unusually intense. Except for the man in the purple robe who had spoken positively of Su Luo, everyone else was in favor of Lan Ningyan. However, after the man in purple was countered by his group, he thought it through for a bit, and then went along with the others, to stand against Su Luo together. Then this group of people saw the Xiao Luo team. Luo Qing, what are you doing here? Do you also have enough points to enter the gravity chamber? Seeing deputy leader Luo Qing, a person laughed and teased. Chapter 2187, Gravity Chamber 4. Senior brother Luo Qing swept a glance at them and nodded slightly but said nothing. One of the people in the group became gleeful. How many days' worth did you collect this time? It can't be that you don't even have enough for 3 days, right? Ha ha ha. 3 days still requires 1 million points, Luo Qing. I heard that you entered the magical beast zone this time. You've made a fortune, right? Hey, I don't recognize this pretty girl. I don't think I've seen her before. Although you all haven't seen her yourselves, you've certainly heard of her name before. She's the one who just came up from the midstream mountains, the famous last-ranked Su Luo. As soon as the words about Su Luo being the person in last place came out, Li Man Man immediately became upset. What nonsense are you talking about? Su Luo is not ranked last. Li Man Man shouted at the group of people. They hadn't expected Li Man Man to be so aggressive, and for a moment, they didn't know how to react. Don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. Li Man Man glared at them angrily. Hey, isn't this junior sister Man Man? Are you confused in the head? Why are you speaking in favor of that girl? That's right, she is so beautiful. With her joining your team, isn't she stealing away your spotlight? Are you not jealous at all? And your favorite senior brother Luaha's going to lose because of Su Luo. There was never a shortage of people who tried to sow discord in this world. When they saw Li Man Man defending Su Luo, a strange feeling swept over them one by one. This was very out of character for Li Man Man. Li Man Man was trembling with anger. Senior brother Luo will not lose. Li Man Man glared at the group fiercely. She felt like she was going to explode from anger. She didn't know what was going on. She herself had been impatient and disgusted with Su Luo, criticizing her every little detail. However, when it came to someone else mocking Su Luo, she couldn't stand it at all. She wanted to pick a fight with them. Seeing Li Man Man like this, Su Luo shook her head and smiled slightly. She thought Li Man Man was extremely cute. How similar was Li Man Man's indignance about Su Luo to how one regarded their alma mater. You could have tens of millions of complaints about your school, but if someone else started trash-talking it, you would be incensed. Su Luo patted Li Man Man on the back. That's enough, why bother getting angry over these irrelevant people? The onlookers saw Su Luo's indifferent and calm attitude, and their eyes shifted slightly. It had to be said that usually, under everyone's hate and ridicule, even if she didn't cover her face and run away crying, wouldn't a girl at least shoot an angry glare? Didn't she see how upset Li Man Man, an uninvolved person, was? However, Su Luo's reaction was completely beyond their expectations. Her unhurried, calm, and relaxed appearance was truly puzzling. So someone raised an eyebrow and asked Su Luo, "Do you want to enter the gravity chamber too?" Su Luo smiled faintly and nodded. Preparing to compete with Lan Yingyan in a month? Su Luo nodded calmly again. I advise you to forget about it. This person glanced at Su Luo slowly and waved his hand. Lan Yingyan has just entered, but he made a one-time payment of 30 days worth of points, 10 million points in total. The sum of your entire team's points will only be enough for 3 days at most, so why bother? Yes, why bother? You don't even have to wait for the battle of life and death in 30 days. You could just as well just take your own life. Such a beautiful girl, it's such a pity for her to kill herself. Could have been used as a honey trap or something, hee hee. Li Man Man was fuming with anger, and she pointed at them saying, "What are you all gloating about? You think Lan Yingyan is the only one who has 10 million points? We can afford it too." Chapter 2188, Gravity Chamber 5. Ha ha, hilarious. 10 million points. Hurry up and take them out for us brothers to see. If you guys can actually take out 10 million points, I will swallow this sword here on the spot. The person pointed to his 2-meter-long giant sword. Su Luo swept an unhurried glance towards him. You better remember your words well. All these people are watching. Then, Su Luo strolled to the door of the gravity chamber. There was a token slot at the entrance of the gravity chamber that showed how many days had been paid for. What? When they saw that after Su Luo swiped her token, it clearly said 30 days. One by one they got all dumbfounded, gazing at Su Luo foolishly. Su Luo calmly turned around and declared to Li Man Man. You know what to do, right? Li Man Man replied in triumph. Just go in and rest assured, I will make sure Lin Aoyan swallows that sword of his. Su Luo's eyes swept over the group of speechless people. Then she turned and entered the gravity chamber. When Lin Aoyan realized that the situation had gone awry, he was about to turn tail and run, but the Xiao Luo team had already stopped and surrounded him. Brother, this sword is made of really good material. It looks delicious. Come on, taste it. It's fresh. Surrounded, the overwhelmed Lin Aoyan was close to crying. Not to mention, there was a ruckus outside from all the people talking about Su Luo. After she swiped the token, the heavy iron door opened to let her in. Then, it closed again with a heavy thud behind her. It was pitch black inside, so dark you couldn't see your fingers in front of you. Swipe the token. A flame lit up. Su Luo calmly looked at the man. He was only 3 feet away from her, yet she had been unaware of his presence before he spoke. He was an old white-bearded grandfather who was about 100 years old. He was dressed in plain clothes and had a serious and unsmiling face. It was apparent that he was just a guide, but Su Luo was secretly surprised in her heart. The little old man who led the way had such profound strength, so high that she could not even guess his cultivation rank. This genius training camp was truly a place full of crouching tigers and hidden one. Su Luo was shocked. Miss Su, the gravity chamber is up ahead, come with me. The old guide, holding a peculiar lantern, led Su Luo up the steps. The temperature was somewhat low on the ground level. As she ascended, step by step, Su Luo felt the temperature gradually rise, giving the feeling of a spring breeze. After walking for an unknown period of time, the narrow path of steps at last came to an end, and a vast space appeared up ahead. In front of them were rows upon rows of rooms, each one marked with numbers. The old man guiding the way explained to Su Luo. There are a total of 13 rooms here, and Miss Su can choose anyone, according to your strength. After giving such a simple explanation, the old guide went back downstairs with his strange lantern. Hey, I was wondering who could it be? Turns out it was you. A mocking voice came from up ahead, and a pair of eyes as cold as a viper's stared at Su Luo. Su Luo raised her eyes to look back at him, complaining in her heart that meeting one's enemy was truly too. The person standing in front of her was none other than Lan Ningyan. Lan Ningyan had been holding onto the doorknob and was about to push the door open, but when he saw Su Luo appear, stopped and spoke to her with sarcasm. What? Is this gravity chamber your house or something? You think you're the only one allowed to enter, and not me? Su Luo smiled lightly and walked along the corridor. Passing by the door of Lan Ningyan's room, she smiled again. Is this number 5? Chapter 2189, Gravity Chamber 6. Oh. A blank look appeared on Su Luo's face. Lan Ningyan grinned. Bronze token, silver token, gold token and jade token corresponds to the 4 gravity chamber levels of 3, 6, 9 and 12 respectively. Don't you even know this? Su Luo gave a faint smile in response. If it weren't for Lan Ningyan's words, I wouldn't know about this. Really? Is there any difference between these 4 levels? A look akin to an inquisitive baby appeared on Su Luo's face. Of course, there is a difference. Lan Ningyan felt that Su Luo was an utter idiot. The upper limits of these chambers are different. Lan Ningyan ridiculed Su Luo and explained with a condescending tone. Take for example my number 5 room. The maximum limit of gravity in this room is 50 times. So that's it. Su Luo scratched her chin, though her eyes were locked straight towards the room number 13 ahead of her. So, room 13 equates to 130 times the gravity? That was even more than what Li Man Man had said. At your level, you can only use room number 4 at best. Lan Ningyan looked at Su Luo with a sneer. Your current cultivation is beneath me, and now you're using a lower room than me. After a month, let's see how you can beat me. A month later, huh? Su Luo muttered, scratching her chin. Ah yes, you can't even afford to pay for 1 month's points yourself. Lan Ningyan laughed at Su Luo. You only have 1 month left to live, so cherish it well. Su Luo smiled and shook her head without answering. Where is room number 13? Su Luo asked with interest. Hey, you got guts. Room number 13 is not somewhere us mere students can enter. It is said that even the elders cannot enter it. That is the place where the city lord once trained in. It is protected so no one can enter. I am actually a little bit interested in room number 13. Ha! You are interested in room number 13, but no one is interested in you at all, okay? Unless the lord of the city himself comes, room number 13 will not be opened. Lan Ningyan swore, shaking his fist. Su Luo laughed without replying, before proceeding to walk along the corridor. Hey, what are you doing? You can't even open the doors up ahead. Lan Ningyan yelled at Su Luo. Nevertheless, Su Luo turned a deaf ear to his words and kept walking. A mocking sneer curled up from the corner of Lan Ningyan's mouth. Those doors are arranged in order of the token level. You only have a silver medal at most, yet you want to open those doors? Haha. I'll be waiting here to laugh at you when you come back. Lan Ningyan simply didn't believe it. So he didn't go in and kept standing there holding the doorknob, sneering at Su Luo's back. Click! Su Luo swiped the diamond token at room number 10 and pushed it open. What? Seeing Su Luo lean half of her body into the room number 10 gravity chamber room, Lan Ningyan almost spewed out blood. How is this happening? How could she open door number 10? Even he could only open room number 5. Room number 10. Wasn't only the elders qualified to open it? Even senior sister Wuyu was able to enter room number 10 only after borrowing the 7th elder's token. Lan Ningyan felt his legs start to tremble. If Su Luo entered room 10, room number 10 equated to 100 times, so in other words, in 30 days Su Luo would have practiced for 3,000 days. With 3,000 days of practice and talent, it would be really hard to tell the level of improvement she would make. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.